It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Yeah. No fear on Declare your independence with me, Ernest Hancock, from the Sonoran Desert, west of Phoenix, way out on the edge of. And we're so far out. We're almost, we get lights from LA. I mean, this is awesome out here. And another person that was very inspiring early on was Tarrin Lupo. Tarrin Lupo is a good friend. He's part of the FreeStateProject. He's up in New Hampshire, and he's doing it. Now, this is okay because Tarrin's such a slacker, and he sends us one picture, and he doesn't do the bio. Donnie, he never sent a bio. I go, whatever. I'll just say he gets what he gets. All right, Tarrin, all right, I'll do this. We can see his pretty face.
So slack.
All right. This is how I know Tarrin. During the Ron Paul Evolution and so on, there were so many people that, saw an opportunity to express themselves. And Tarrin was one of those. He's a chiropractor by trade, and he was in Georgia, and he was a writer. And he wrote books. And what do I chastise you on every time I talk to you? What do I say?
Yeah, write a sequels, write the sequels. And
write a sequel to, One Nation Under Blood.
15 years old now, probably.
Read the book. You go, damn. It's like it'll be next week. I mean, this is kind of there was it's a long story, but the point is that he wrote these great novels for anybody, but kids loved it. And what it was, the Pirates of Savannah, and it was really a treatise on how to use precious metals. It was a big silver thing. We were pushing silver.
At the time,
at the time it was, we got to have some kind of privacy money, and everybody get silver. And I screamed that all the time, buy silver, all of a sudden he's starting to be seen as right now. But it'd been better off you bought it when it was in the teens.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I got it at $7.
Right. I think my vast majority was like, 10 to 13 or something like that, Then you want to hodl silver, I can tell you that. So this is, what happened was those books were, very inspiring, and he would go up to New Hampshire. The Free State Project had their Porcupine Freedom Festival, Liberty Forums, and all this kind of stuff that they do. And, Tarrin was just a regular, and he started getting integrated more and more and more, and he moved there, okay? So while he's there, in the meantime, there was one time that he was going around, and he went to our home in North Phoenix, and he was highlighting, alternative, food production and farms and that kind of stuff. And we had our aquaponics and our chickens and turkeys and goat and all crap and whatever we were doing. And he was filming that. And that was kind of a theme that he was doing around the country for a while for that. And then he started this show, podcast that he had in New Hampshire. And then he started looking at metrics. And, he talks about something. All of a sudden he gets a bunch of, guess what I'm talking about now, So he's been, working on the use of the internet for a lot of things. And it was a lot of innovation on how to use Facebook, how to use Instagram, how to use graphics, in the early days. And he had a lot of success. But he was just training Amazon's algorithm to screw you.
Yep, absolutely.
So you can see, I've been through this whole mechanism of control. And definitely, it's all the incentives and the disincentives and the canceling and the deplatforming and how you can and can't, and it changes all the time. So I was a little bit different. I was more about, there's privacy, but I'm more like publicity. I want to make sure that you have access to this. So then we did our, IPFS network and storage of data, yada, yada, yada. But in the middle of that was Tarrin. And Tarrin has been making use of, whatever communications. He's very into the community. He's an add to his community. Be an add. Don't be a subtraction. Well, Tarrin's definitely an add. He's an ad guy. So I wanted to make sure that people understood that, that'll bring me down a little bit. One. Yeah.
You're hiding all the trash in the background. I forgot I was going to be on video, and it's like a storage room.
Well, no, what I'm talking about is my,
okay.
My voice is so.
The people watching it on video are getting a treat.
Yeah, it's when I started doing radio at the radio station, they had the host mic set, and then they had masking tape for Ernie, and it was way down. We got to bring that mic way down, man. But I wanted to make sure we got touch base with Tarrin because he's very knowledgeable, very principled, and he kind of got his pulse on what's going on. And the Free State Project is in transition between a lot of stuff is going on there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of get an update from people that I know and kind of what's going on. Crosby called me a week ago.
Oh, wow.
Crosby is the owner of Rogers Campground, where Porcupine Freedom Festival has been for 15 years or something, or more. And he's a good friend. When I go back, we always go golf, and he's like 86 or something. I mean, he's getting old, but he's spry. He's doing it. But there's been kind of a rift between him and Porcupine Freedom Festival. There's some diligent people, man, on his ass. The plumbing doesn't work. You're doing it wrong, and you get thousands of people coming in. They all want to plug in their Teslas into the grid, and he's got issues. So I was offering. I go, hey, we'll just go up and upgrade everything. We'll just go. At the end of the season, we'll just go. A bunch of guys, get Derek and Jay and myself and some others and Pat, and so we'll just go in and we'll just fix it. As an appreciation, paying it forward. I mean, he's been protecting us from the man forever. And it has been, but there was a campaign to not there. They wanted to go, and I'm like, where else are you going to get that kind of protection? That kind of freedom that we have. So, he just finally just decided that, it's just negative waves and never mind. And so I like Rogers Campground and I like Crosby. But he does need some upgrades, and I was willing to help. And he's just not. He, don't care. I'm retired and on vacation, so whatever. But but it opened up some of the consternation that's going on up there. And when they first picked New Hampshire as the free state, we had freedom summits that we'd done since 2001. Like 3 weeks after 9/11 was our first one, and then we did them, for well over a decade. And a lot of great speakers, like Ron Paul spoken at 3 of them. I mean, we had, a lot of big names. And what happened was the Free State Project had a table there back when they first the concept was going. And I started doing radio in February of 2003. Right within, weeks of me starting to do the radio show, they selected New Hampshire. And I had Amanda on, she was one of the people that was, pumping this. She was a lawyer at Harvard or whatever, and a pilot, and a single mom that was really promoting all this stuff. And my first question was, I go, okay, you guys have picked New Hampshire. All right. You got to have a honeycomb hideout. I mean, you got an office, you got a secret handshake, you got a criteria, you got a central plan for freedom. I mean, how's this going to work, And whenever you create an organization around a movement or a cause, sooner or later, the organization becomes more important than the reason you created it. That is just, Steiger's law, man. It's what we've seen always happen. And so I've been looking at, and there's been a lot of good people like Tarrin and people that are up there to understand the reasoning behind the Free State move into New Hampshire. That's what's kept it together, has been this common theme of just leave me aloneism. But all those people that came that do that, they want to corral them into a collective to, get people elected, to change, the laws and do. And I'm okay, that's cool. And they've been successful in doing a lot of that. But I'm just like, it's by osmosis. I mean, you go there, you start a business, you sponsor the local Little League team, you help your neighbor clear some woods, you just, like a good neighbor, the Free Staters are there. Well, it's a little bit more activism and poking the man from this one place, kind of that, cause some consternation. FBI don't like that too much. Well, they, them, those, the banks, and that kind of thing. So libertarian philosophy is not welcomed by the man. I mean, I tell you, there are structures in place, and they have constantly been up against it and holding their own, doing pretty well. Well, Tarrin's done it a little bit differently. Tarrin has gone up there and played an entrepreneur. Now, he'd have his chiropractic services, really popular with that and everything, but then you got COVID and then the man and, it's just stuff. So he's always doing something. He's just living life. But he's plugged in. And I wanted to get a beat on how things are going and what the future is, but we're going to get caught up with my friend Tarrin. Now, the thing is that I've been on his butt. You'll see some of his books here. We'll rotate. That's all right. All part of the show. I don't care. I don't care. So One Nation Under Blood was about, it's kind of this adrenochrome thing. I mean, it was, you get really good youth factor kind of stuff in young blood, and it's in the future, and a guy comes out of a coma and he's like, what the hell is going on? Young kids are the rich ones selling their blood to wealthy whatever the hell, and it became a thing. And it was very predictive. And what happened is he saw a article on Freedom's Phoenix that was about them doing this with mice. And that sparked the whole thing, and he did this, and it was a fantastic book. And it deserved a freaking sequel. And I say Tarrin is a slacktivist because he didn't do the sequel. But he has a bunch of other books that he does, and, that's a lot of fun.
I think part of it is people stopped reading. So I don't think you realize how dated my stuff is now, because I was one of the
that is not dated. That is science freaking not later.
It's like, back then it was very predicting the future, and now it's like dead on and we live in it. But what I'm trying to say is that when I started writing books, people were still barely using Kindles and iPads and to read something. So I was one of the first people to get in on electronic books, and I just hit at the right time with the right book, and it took off. But then everyone and their mother started writing, and there's like a gazillion free books now, and it's very difficult to compete as an author. I think probably what I might do in the future is when AI gets good enough that I can simply feed in a book or a script and be like, here, make a video of this. And it will have my own actors. It'll have my own stuff. When that gets easy, which I think is probably 2 or 3 years out, then I'll probably just convert everything to videos and movies and just let AI do it instead of trying to hire actors and mess with all that stuff.
I'm waiting on you now, man. I'd love to have animation.
I mean, they can do
they're doing it now.
Yeah, but I think I'm no AI expert, but I think there's definitely limits. Like you can only do a couple seconds of animation at a time. Like I'm getting to the point where I'd like to be able to upload a script and be done. And I really,
who you need to talk to? I know who you need to talk to. You ready to talk to?
Okay, who do I know?
Jordan Page.
Oh yeah,
he has done a full-length movie animation that he been working on for a year or two.
I didn't know that.
I was up there, last summer or before, and he showed me. I was like, holy crap! It's all about knowing the prompts. How to the scripts that you get and put. And I was blown away, and that was a year and a half ago. Right. It has gotten exponentially faster in capability.
I'm hoping to help Jordan out. He's trying to get me on his making stuff for his Firefly, and I might do some this winter. So if you guys don't know what that is, Firefly is like, I guess it's a social community for
homeschooling.
And I thought, so for you guys who don't know me, I used to, just like I got into ebooks, I got into YouTube early on, and I had some success with that. Was a big player back in the day, but now I think my last video got 15 views. I mean, I'm super blackballed on YouTube. Like, there's nothing I could do to get views on there.
We just started going back.
I was gonna
on.
be, sorry, go ahead, Ernie.
No, I just wanted to share with you that we just started going back on. We have all the channels, we have all the the YouTube, the Rumble, the Odysseys, the BitChute, all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't interface with it because it was so controlled and so and then you risk losing all the Levolution stuff that we had because here's your 15th strike, Ernie. You're not allowed to something, So we. After we went to Ron Paul's 90th birthday party in Lake Jackson this last August, Luke Radowski, our friend, was up there, and he's going, Ernie, man, it's starting to open up. Now's the time to come back to do it. I'm like, all right. So we try, and you can see how we get way more from just downloads from the site because we've been, like, this will be converted into IPFS, and then Matt Raymer from Content Safe will take that and platform it, and I don't have to do it. He takes that file and then propagates it, across, and that's how we're doing our videos on Occupy the Land. But we built up such an audience through Freedom's Phoenix that, they know where to get it. It's never going away.
There's a lot of value in that, man. I mean,
it's essential. Until we created that, I wouldn't even think of doing the other. They could cancel me. I don't need you.
If you can make a program, put it out everywhere, then there's low risk, and why not? But remember, my big platform was Facebook and YouTube, and I got rid of Facebook like 12 years ago before all the censorship, and then I got rid and YouTube is like nothing now. So I'm barely on the socials anymore. And what I'm finding, what's interesting, Ernie, is now that AI is getting so popular, I find myself using socials less and less because I can't believe anything I'm seeing anymore. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what this is. And it kind of turned me off. And I'm finding myself going back to old school meetups. Like we have, we're really lucky in New Hampshire that we have our own Liberty network here that is in real life. So every region has a place to meet up, like a little underground club or a bar or whatever. And I live in the White Mountains, which is real close to Rogers Campground. And we have a brand new one here called the Pine. And it was
so people know Lancaster. It's really north next to Canada, New Hampshire.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we're about real close to Canada. So I live out in the mountains, and we have our own little social club now. Then think of it like Imperial Poobah, the the Flintstones or whatever. We have our own social club that is just porcupines. And it's great. So I've been going there. And what I'm finding is I think we've finally got to the point where we are hitting technology overload, that I'm finding more and more people that are just like pushing away and stepping away because there's just so much now. I can't, AI is so good, I can't tell what's real and what's not. So like, I don't trust anything anymore. And so I have to go out into real life again in order to get that.
Oh my God.
I know, it's crazy. So,
well, what is the mood?
I find myself doing real life businesses again instead of digital.
What are you doing now? What's your thing?
These days, all right. So a lot of my activism up here, because the Free State Project is working. It's going well. Over the last few years, depending, as a younger me, I was more into the hanging out with Ian and going and doing, activism and crazy stuff.
Ian Freeman, that was host and creator of Free Talk Live, the Liberty Radio Network we were on, and had like 200 something Tarrin radio stations they were on, and the man did not like it. And he had been constantly raided and, rammed into his home and studio ripped apart, and a bunch of times. It has been a thing. And now he's serving like 8 years or something for running a Bitcoin ATM. That was legal. They
before the rules, like there was no rules on
they just made it up.
Bitcoin, and he's like, well, what rules did I break that didn't exist? Like it's a complete, it's a show. I mean, it's a show, and it doesn't matter. There is no real justice. But I will say this, that when I get on air or whatever, I do something, I try to plug Ian because he's still in jail. And he does have they're trying to petition, they got Ross out. Roger got out by buying his way out, but with pressure, and maybe we can do the same for Ian. I don't.
Yeah, James Babb and I were at the Bitcoin Las Vegas conference where Ross Ulbricht spoke, and he and Lynn, invited us to go up there, and we were passing out all these cards, promoting Free and Ian, and some of the other guys. Got Roger. If the war on Bitcoiners is over, man, get Ian out, man. Come on,
Yeah,
So I tell you the one thing I did want to talk about my experience there, but we'll do that later. Go ahead and talk. Finish up on.
Okay, so basically, I get up here, and as time's going by, I've got a stepdaughter who's 18 now and got a job at a homeschool. I don't know how to explain it. It's a homeschool enrichment program, so you can think of it. For you guys that don't know, it's kind of like a summer camp for homeschool or after school camp. Where they go, the homeschool kids get together, they spend a day doing a project or learning something, and then they go home. But there's starting to be more and more of these here. So my daughter's interested in doing that, and she wants to learn like how to run one of these things and how to communicate with kids and how to do this stuff. So that's been going well. But what it really hit was, I'm very concerned about Gen Z, and you have grandkids now entering this, that where are they going to go and what are they going to do when the world is changing so rapidly the next few years? And the big sensible move is, going to trade schools, starting little businesses. And
Right.
my push lately has been trying to get younger kids to do Agora businesses. In other words, easy businesses that you don't have to deal with the state. And the big ones here, almost in every state, you have something called cottage laws. And if you guys don't know what that is, if you're vending,
Laws.
yeah, well, ignore them anyway. In the Liberty community, we can ignore these. But there's still, like, if you want to get out and do stuff where you want to actually work like a real festival or a big festival or something like that, you got to deal with this crap. But New Hampshire has been so good, and a lot of states are following. I think Arizona might be one of them, that they have homestead laws, which basically says, as long as you stick to these food items that don't poison people, you can make whatever you want. And there's no regulation. It's really simple. Like, I think you have to put a label on something just so people know what it is.
Yeah, this week.
And that's about it. No, because New Hampshire has been actively pulling and making stuff easier to do without the government. When it's the only state I see and do stuff like that. Like, they were so successful this year, they removed the car inspections. We're like one of the only states that still have an inspection for some reason, and that was pretty much the Free Staters led to get rid of that. I mean, I'm seeing actual wins. There's enough people here now because, for 10, 15 years, it was a lot of activism and button heads and bringing attention to issues, but nothing really changed. But now they have been actively working at getting representatives elected and changing laws. And it's the only time I've seen that work anywhere. So is New Hampshire perfect? No. Is it better than everything else I'm seeing? Heck yeah. And it's actually starting to work here. There's a long way to go, but I'm not seeing them remove laws anywhere else. They just add laws.
One of the things about New Hampshire is they keep going on about no income tax, there's no sales tax, whatever the price is. It's so unique when you go there and you buy something and it says, $30, you go to the cash register and it's $30. I mean, I was like, whoa, that's cool.
Online.
But property taxes are a freaking killer, man. That's where they get you.
Are higher, but not the highest in the country. I mean, you still probably have higher property taxes in New York and parts of, anywhere real liberal, you're still going to have high property taxes, but you easily make up for it if you are, I save more in taxes on stuff I buy, especially trying to start, like you're doing a homestead. When I was doing homesteading, I had to buy a lot of equipment and a lot of stuff and a lot of batteries and a lot of solar panels and stuff like that, all that stuff was taxed. And when I was down in South Carolina, I was getting 6, 7%, sometimes as high as 10% on buying stuff. And when you add that stuff up, it's, I'm spending thousands of dollars on taxes when you're buying a lot of things, especially if you're buying a big ticket item like a tractor or a car or something. You come to New Hampshire, you don't have any of that. So you end up washing. Like, yeah, you might have higher property tax, but you save it over here. So I think I save a lot more money on my purchases than my property tax ever is.
One of the things with they do have some class. I think if you get like 12 acres or something like that,
They have a homestead exemption.
Yeah, so they got where you can pay a lot less if you
It
buy it
drastically.
properly.
And I just found out there was a rep that just posted this today that there's a law they also got in somehow that says you don't even have to have 10 acres, that you can get a homestead exemption if you make $2,500 of things on your farm. So if you're selling eggs or you're making, like we sell cinnamon rolls, and if I make over $2,500, I can claim that and get a major tax reduction. So there are ways around it. You just gotta,
damn libertarians finding ways.
Yeah, I mean it's, but the difference is in New Hampshire, the legislators are giving us ways on a silver platter. They're like, oh, that's not. It's such a weird climate. I can get on Twitter and be like, hey, can you remove this law next year? And this is a really annoying law. And they will have a serious conversation, and you will see that appear. Now, does it always happen? No, but it's being talked about, and you can get laws introduced. Like it's just a whole different element. We finally
let's talk about how New Hampshire government really works.
Okay,
there is like 500. Well, it's like 500 and something representatives. I mean, each state legislator. Yeah, it's a lot. Each legislator represents only like 3,000 people. I mean, everybody. And they don't get paid, do they?
They get paid $100 a year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like nothing.
Not even gas money. So
you really got to want to do it, or, get a little something on the side like a lot of these guys do. But free staters that, because you have different classes, because I think it's an open primary. Anybody can vote for anybody of anything at any time or something. It's weird. But, or the way it used to be. But what happens is you have this block of free state kind of endorsed people that either are free staters or they have, seen the light and, I wish to be endorsed by kind of thing. Yeah. So that of the 400 and whatever, how many are in the House?
I'm not positive. I think it's like 430, but I'm not.
That's a lot. Exactly so in there, how many of them are endorsed free state, kind of freedom-oriented people?
I think they're up to about 150.
Whoa!
So they have enough power over the last few years to introduce bills and actually get them out, where before they would just they could be kingmakers where, if you could have 5%, you could swing people, be like, okay, we'll play along, but we want this, or we'll play along, but we want this. Now they're big enough, they're introducing bills and getting stuff through. And it's really changed in the last couple of years. Things are happening here, and this is the place to be if you're interested in that kind of stuff. The FreeStateProject just put out a new webpage update. It's really nice, fsp.org. So go check it out if you want to be part of that, and if that's your vibe. And this is different, right? The younger me was a lot more like, let's go film the cops beating people. And the older me is like, hey, I want my daughter to be able to do a business without getting arrested. So I've kind of shifted on. I'm not a big believer of politics. I'm more of an anarchist, but this politics actually works here. So it's different. When you finally have enough amassed, you can use politics as self-defense. We can be like, they're not passing laws to make more government. They're passing laws to get rid of government, and that's not happening anywhere else in the world that I know of.
Well, it's also brought out
to get to this,
Well, it brought out the ire of the left. I mean, they're coming after it. They're like, hell no. Now this is Rogers Campground. This is where Porcupine Freedom Festival, and they take a picture. I'm sure I'm in there somewhere. But the thing that has really had an impact is just an example, an inspiration for a lot of people of what can be done. And that was the argument in the beginning. If you pick a state that had an international border and access to the ocean, which is kind of, one of the criteria, and was live free or die state, So they, which is on their license plates. They keep trying to get rid of that. But it has been an inspiration for a lot of people around the world. People all over the world come, to these events. And
look at that calendar.
Been a target.
Right?
I'm sorry?
Go back up and look at that calendar. Look how many things are going on socially every day. Every day there's some sort of liberty thing somewhere. Like just tons of stuff. And it's all social stuff. There's not that much like activism, libertarian. It's more like, hey, let's learn how to make kombucha, or let's can, or let's hang out and have a party, or, So there's so much going on here. It's ridiculous. I could do something every single day socially. And that is what's dying right now. And the younger generations are hungry for it. There is not face-to-face social interaction. There is keyboard activism, and it's been like that, and it's swinging that way. And I do believe people are going to be like me, where they hit the litmus of, I've had enough. I can't tell what's real and fake anymore, that I'm going to get out in real life. And
am I arguing with a bot?
Yeah, probably. I probably am. And it's stupid, because now the internet's still important to find people. But once they're here, we try to get them to do like real life activities and go backwards in time and be social and start a business that you can actually make money at without the government controlling.
Well, tell me about your cinnamon roll thing.
So basically, the cottage laws, a lot of places allow you to make baked goods without any sort of, or very minimal regulations. And New Hampshire's been pretty good about that. So we started a little cinnamon roll company that we get out there and we vend. And, besides doing some basic, like sticking a label on something, there's no regulation on it at all. It's awesome. So there's every state kind of has cottage laws. I try to steer people that are trying to, like, if your grandkids get up and they're like, well, I want to have a business, but if I do this within a week, the man's going to come down on me. You can encourage them to start a little, go to the corner and sell some cookies, go sell some bread, go sell some cinnamon rolls, go do this. And you can make a real living at it if you do it every day. You can bake and make a decent little living as a young person. So I'm really pushing this out to young Gen Z and millennials to look into starting little cottage laws, because in the future, doing digital stuff is going to be almost worthless. Like Hollywood's done. If Joe Tarrin Lupo can literally put out my script without having to sell it to Hollywood and have a movie produced for a few $1,000, you're done. Like, you can't compete with me when you have billion-dollar blockbusters that are just mediocre, So I think everything is going to change. Like, information is going to be easy and free, and it's going to be hard to make things selling digital content. They're going to clone people, and you're already seeing it. Like, there's going to be AI YouTube pages where, why would I be an influencer when AI could take my whole thing I talk about and make it fake me, and not, YouTube doesn't have to pay me any money. They can make something very similar to me that would talk about the same thing. And I think all that's coming, and it's cooked. So I'm really trying to push back that if you want to thrive in the next decade, you need to go back to face old mom and pop stuff that AI can't touch. And selling food is one of those ways. You can, it doesn't matter how bad the economy gets, you can still sell cookies. Like, people are still going to have enough for a cinnamon roll.
I want to inject this. Our good friend Jay Noon is a good example.
Yeah.
What happened was, when you have a opportunity to do whatever you want to do, there is amazing what can happen. Now, during COVID, when they had the lockdown and so on, I remember I was up there and he's promoting bacon seeds. I'm like, what the hell's a bacon seed? Because on Facebook Marketplace, you couldn't sell animals. Oh. So he was selling bacon seeds, which meant piglets. So it was, and he created a meat market option, pigs, cows, and so on. They started, raising all this kind of, well, the Free Staters were not going to starve. That was just, what it was. They had created their own, we don't need this infrastructure, we'll do it ourselves. Well, of course, the man wants to have their say, but, Free State don't care. We're growing our own stuff. everybody got a couple of
Private
pigs,
underground.
everybody got a cow, everybody had a little bit of land, everybody got, so the free state is going to have food. Exactly what, Tarrin's talking about. This is what happens, and the resilience that you get from that, from a decentralized economy to where you're not without. And it's going to be a food thing. And we saw that during COVID.
You got to get government out of the way. And they are actively removing government here, which is awesome. And I'm excited to see what comes out. Because usually every year you get nervous about, oh, man, the government's going to make this law, and it's going to take away this thing I love. And here it's opposite. It's like, oh, I'm excited about the legislature. What are they going to get rid of this year? So I'm excited. And I don't see that anywhere else. But it took a long time. Well,
what's the opposition, though? I mean, how?
Oh, they're freaking out.
Everything that I've seen is that the progressives and everybody's overlapped in the pro-government, whether they're left or right, and them damn free staters.
There's still a lot of Boston immigrants and, the people coming from Massachusetts over the border. But we're barely beating them recruiting Liberty people to come. And the people are changing here too. As older folks are dying off, they're having less kids. It gets really hard to justify when you got 10 people that don't have kids or their kids are gone, and you got one person that has kids in government school here, and that one person is making everybody else pay for it. It's getting really hard. Like, I live in a little town that I think there's only 200 students or something. But our property taxes are $8 million. And it's like, if you spend $8 million on 200 students, you could get a private tutor for every one of these kids if we got rid of the government school.
Right.
And they've been passing laws here allowing school choice and vouchers, which I think is going to, in 10 years, completely dismantle the system. Like, I think that public schools are on their way out, and therefore my property taxes will go down. Because
hopefully,
if you had a choice, here's the deal, Ernie. It costs something like, because of teachers' pensions, because of all the administrators they hire and all the money that they get from the state, it costs, I think, $32,000 to send a kid to school here in my city. But the private school can do it for about $8,000 to $10,000 for a private school education that's superior. So for a third of the cost, I could send my kid, and I can use the government. Now they passed a law that I can use the government to pay for most of that. So I don't even have to pay for it out of pocket to send my kid to private school.
So it's a savings to the taxpayer.
It's a savings to the taxpayer by giving school choice. And what's going to eventually happen is parents are going to figure out, oh, if I don't have to pay any more out of pocket, why wouldn't I send my kid to a superior program like this? And their friends are going to go, and they're going to be like, you're so lucky you don't have all the government school stuff you have to do. And it's like, yeah, my kid's in private school, or my kid's homeschooled. And I think there's going to be a huge shift now that it's being funded, and it's going to dwindle. It's going to bleed these little schools to where they have to shut down or sell. I mean, how can I justify $8 million when there's 50 kids left in the school?
What is the vaccine mandate thing for going to school? That's a big deal there too.
So the vaccine, luckily, and again, I'm not a politician, but luckily, I believe all it is a form you fill out here. You can get religious and medical exemptions. So it's much. Thank goodness that a lot of liberty activists have protected that, because I know right across the state, Maine is awful. Like, you can't even have an exemption for anything. Like, you want to send your kid to college, too bad. So just coming across the border to New Hampshire is a safety area, and there's a huge support of activists that'll keep it that way. I mean, that'll be one of the last things that ever gets changed here, I think, is people are very protective about that. So, I'm very happy that we didn't have to deal with that with our kid doing a vaccine stuff, and the homeschoolers don't have to deal with that. And private schools, a lot of them don't care about that in private organizations. So I think there's going to be a huge opportunity. If I'm going to predict the future like I normally do, and then 5 years from now, you're going to have me on the show and tell me how right I was. I think what's going to happen is that there's a huge opportunity to start private schools here. So or a little homeschool program or something like that, where if you could just get, say you could get that money, $8,000 a year for 10 students to come to your little school. That's $80,000. That's enough to make an income for some people. So, you're complaining like, because AI is going to destroy all management jobs and all middle management and anything that enters a computer. Like, why do I need someone doing insurance when a computer can do that and I don't have to pay them $80,000 anymore? Like, it's going to destroy anything that can be done on a computer that most people do. But it's not going to be able to really watch your kids on the playground, or do those kind of things. You still need the face to face. And I think what's going to happen is that if you give this opportunity, if you have any, and I'm encouraging you, if that's your thing that you've ever wanted to start a little school, come to New Hampshire, man. The golden goose is laying eggs for people that are willing to do it, and it'll help move the system along, and it'll free us of property taxes. Like if you get rid of government schools, man, the property taxes would drop to nothing.
Well, this has been the threat, and it's a lot of, government at every level, teacher unions,
they hate
education infrastructure. I mean, they're going after, and a lot of it's ad hominem stuff.
Again, it's a numbers game, Ernie. 20 years ago, people were having kids. Now, I think out of my friends, maybe 3 or 4 have families that, have kids. The rest are all like single dudes. And I'm like, why are we paying for you to send your kids to school? So I think it's going to shift where the boomers are dying off. And when they die off, there's going to be enough people that say, no, we're done. I'm not funding. I don't care. Go ahead and make them hiss fit and scream and yell about how we're destroying education. I'm not paying for it anymore. And I think there's going to be a shift coming, just numbers wise, that if you can activate a block of all the single people that are paying the bill for all this, I think it's over. But it's just a matter of it has to get to the tipping scales.
What is the influx of people? The Free State Project, how this was marketed, is it took 5,000 people to register to make a preference of where New Hampshire wins. Okay, so we're doing New Hampshire.
I mean, we voted for it. I was actually that old in this. They voted
right back in the day.
States.
And I think I participated, in some way. But they want to commit you once they hit 20,000 signers or something. It triggered the move, because once they triggered the move, you had 2 years or something. You pinky swore you're going to
5 years. They had a letter of intent where the idea was that, most libertarian people I know are old school and honor their word. Like, I'm an old school businessman. If I shake your hand and we do a deal, I will go hell or high water to make sure my name's on the line. I'll make sure that happens. There used to be that was much more of a way we did business. It was much more of a country thing. Like people honored their word back in the day. And so when this first came out, we were still in that era where people honored their word and they would sign the letter of intent. And I remember having fights with my wife at the time saying, look, I signed this thing. I gave my word. I'm going. I can't back out on my word, where these days people wouldn't think twice about that. I don't think they honor their word anymore.
Yeah, no, I never signed any intent and everything because I was supporting and I'm going here. But it is.
And so that meant something to me. I always felt like, hey, man, I signed this thing. I need to honor my word. And that was part of it for me. And those are the kind of people I want. I want somebody that'll be a good
Well, this is my question. The people that, committed once they hit the 20,000, they did that and it triggered the move and people moved. And the people that I'm wondering, what's the demographic? Just a bunch of young singles? Is it families, businessmen?
In the very beginning days, you're talking the Free State Project's 20 years old now. In the very beginning days, there wasn't a lot going on besides activism here and a few. When I say activism, it was like a bunch of young single males that could get up and move in the middle of the night and come here and cram into an apartment. And very few families came and very few people with money came in businesses. They started trickling in. And they became more on the political side where they started running for office and trying to do stuff. And they set that in motion so we can have what we have today. It took 20 years to build that momentum to get enough reps in there. Then the other side was like, hey, we're going to get a bunch of attention and do activism and put everything online and film cops and go to court and all this stuff. And that brought a lot of attention, but it brought more of those kind of people, which are very important. So you got to kind of have both. And these days, the Free State Project is aged and matured, that we get a lot less of the activism style people and we get way more families that want to make sure their kids have a good lifestyle and grow up here, or single people that want to have families, or there's not so many of the party scene people that there used to be.
The couch surfing, povertarian,
the
group of
povertarians.
activists, whatever. Yeah.
Povertarians. But yeah, perfect. Or those people have grown up, and they've had kids and they've matured. So they used to be povertarians, but now they, got their own little homestead going. I live in the North Country, and the big focus up here is they recruit families and homesteaders. So it's a much different vibe. It is that community that everybody is looking for. I wish my neighbors had, raised food, and then I wish that I knew a guy that could fix cars, and I wish I knew a guy that could fix my gun, and I wish I knew a guy that could cut this tree down. We are developing that. The North Country has all this, and the families get together and their kids all hang out. And it is like the first normalcy I've seen in 30 years. It feels like it's 1980 here. And they have built that. And so I'm a big proponent. If you're that's the kind of lifestyle you want, look at the North Country. The real estate's still reasonable here. The privacy's pretty good.
And if you like snow.
Yeah, I mean, snow. But, for a while I snowbirded, but I was still in New Hampshire. So if that bothers you a bunch, go away for a few months and come back, that. And the snow makes people tough too. Like, here's the other thing I found out, Ernie. I don't want everybody to move here. I don't want wishy-washy. I want strong people to move here and the snow is kind of a deterrent. If you don't love Liberty enough to move because it's cold, then, maybe this isn't the right place for you. Like, I want you to have enough strength. Oh yeah, there's my southern homestead. I see you going through my old stuff.
Yeah, you had, what was it, North Carolina?
So I had another property in South Carolina, and I was bouncing back and forth. We had a little homestead down there, a primitive site, but that was before I moved to New Hampshire full time. I was bouncing back and forth because, honestly, COVID kicked my butt. What happened was I had 3 different businesses, and they all went under with COVID in a matter of a month or two. So I did not see that coming. When you have 3 income sources and they all go, that was bad because, I was a chiropractor and I had an office, and they were cracking down. I was in a college town, and they were cracking down over masking, and they were trying to get people to mask, and I wouldn't do it. And someone else I knew got a $10,000 fine for not doing it. And I was like, you know what? This ain't worth practicing anymore. People are being stupid. And I shut down my practice. I lost my coaching job because I wouldn't run a bunch of girls wearing masks. They wanted me to exercise them with masks on.
Right.
Like, that's stupid and dangerous. And then YouTube found a bunch of old stories I had on, I'm not sure, on vaccinations and stuff, and blacklisted my channel and took them off. I mean, they were like 5 years old. And they were like, when COVID started, they went back into my old archives and tagged me for having vaccine stuff in there.
Yeah.
So I lost all my income in 3 years, and it was like, well, I guess it was hard to build back up from that. And so we had to stay in South Carolina for a while and come up here for a while just to make things work. We were living at Rogers Campground, because it was a cheap way to live. And I do.
Yeah, you bought one of the cabins up there. Yeah. And that was cool. It was nice.
It's a great way to live, man. If you guys are unsure, like, hey, is New Hampshire right for me? Maybe I just want to put my toe in the water. Just come spend a summer up here. Get a seasonal rental at a campground. Look around the area, and then go back to where you're at. And if you like it, which you will, you'll start.
I love it up
to
there.
Find property, and yeah, we would love to have you as a second. Me and you should just share properties. Like, I'll make a little spot for you. You let us stay out in Arizona when we want to come out there.
What? Hell yeah, you can come out whenever you want. But I tell you,
I love it. I'd come out and help
put your ass to work. I
enjoy that. It's fine.
I know you would. You should come out.
I'd like to.
Well, the thing is that once you start homesteading, I mean, you really
you never get out.
You got to be here. But July and August,
No, I'll pass.
That's
I'll
why we
up.
never planned to go to Pork Fest. It didn't have to be planned. I haven't gone the last 2 years, but I've gone to like 15. And it was.
We're talking all kinds of trash about you.
Yeah. yeah. No, I hear it. But the thing is that it's you go there at the end of June. And we'd spend like 6 weeks, around doing whatever, taking love pups or camping and visiting and, going to Jay's and Derek's and whatever. And then by that time, the oh my God part of the summer was done, and then we come back.
Yeah.
Well, so we kind of snowbirded.
That's what we did with South Carolina. Is we just went away for the summer. It's horrible living there in the summer.
Yeah, no, it in New Hampshire is so beautiful. It's open. The thing that's different is the culture. It's like when it does snow. We have spent a couple winters there doing activism stuff, but and one year it was the winter summer of 7-8 around in there was the biggest snowstorm of highest 130 something inches of, oh my God, and it was plowed immediately. And it wasn't because it was some new municipal thing. It was the people. The people had their own plows. They took care of their own neighborhood. They took care of, and then the municipality did, the main whatever. I mean, by 7, 8 in the morning, it was done. The biggest storms or whatever, and they're working it because the people took responsibility for their own places, and they didn't delegate authority off to somebody else who's going to do it for something. So a lot of free staters, they made money. Doing plowing. Wow.
Yeah, it's still
and pay me in
like
Bitcoin. I mean, that kind of thing.
And it's funny. As much as I dig crypto, I find myself going back to silver and gold now because I just don't trust what's going on with the market. Right. And it's funny, like you were talking about in the beginning of this, at 2008, it was all about the silver and the dime cards and everything. And now I'm like going back to that, going, it's simpler. Like I don't really understand what's going on with crypto. Like I'll take a payment in silver all day long. And
we had the first silver calculators.
We did. I forgot about that.
We had the silver calculator because it had what each coin was worth, how much you could do, so you could trade at a vending table in silver. You needed a calculator, to kind of know what was up, and so we sparked a lot of this kind of stuff. And then Bitcoin hit.
I didn't realize like how old we are when we talk about this stuff. There's like kids growing up that have never
have no idea
what crypto is. This wasn't a new idea. It gives me some hope though. I'll say this: when back in the day before 2000, me and you were in this, and everything was circulated with DVDs and newsletters, and it was like secret knowledge, and the Fed was some big thing. And now you talk to a 13-year-old kid, and they're like, "Oh, in the Fed, I saw that on TikTok." And it's like they have the knowledge that we used to have to go to seminars to find out. And some guy would hand you a shady DVD and be like, share this out. It's so different now. Like they're so advanced on what they see. And they're like, oh yeah, government's completely corrupt. Some 13-year-old kid completely understands the stuff that took me 20 years to figure out because the information just wasn't out there. You had to dig for this stuff. And I
used to say, if you 3 months and a Facebook account and you'll figure it out but then they stop that,
I found out that X is still free. Like Elon's at least letting stuff go over there. So I'm hanging out in X right now.
We have that channel. I haven't interfaced, Tarrin, because I'm more into this community meetup, know your neighbors, go help kind of whatever thing that's coming. And we're doing the mesh network and the infrastructure using the Xano crypto. And that's going to be a thing.
I think it's really important that you document that so we all know how to do it. I think that's what's one of your strengths is you always put up everything you're doing. And that's good because, you talk to everybody on the internet, everybody knows something's going on and something's changing. And they want to be prepared, but they have no idea really where to find a community and do all that stuff. Well, the community exists in pockets. You can find them. And I'm really proud to say the New Hampshire community is like, at least the North Country is normal people that they're not crazy family people. You know what I mean? I can have a normal conversation with these people and it's not the most extreme militia kind of people or whatever. Right. It's nice. It's the first place I found that like when I leave New Hampshire, I just feel dirty. I don't want to go. I'm like, oh, I hate leaving New Hampshire because
I hate going into town. We drive into town. I'm like, get me out of here.
God, I have no tolerance for it anymore.
Well, this is one thing I wanted you to comment on. When it first started, you could see there was the anarchist type that just went there and just leave me aloneism. I'm not signing nothing, being part of. I don't have any obligation to help campaign for whatever. And those kind of went where you are, Berlin up there, northern part. That was kind of the anarchist part.
They went to Keene too.
Well, that was the other. That was the activist type. That was more the active. There was three types.
I see what you mean.
There was the anarchist, leave me alonist. I don't want to play.
They went out.
I just live by osmosis and be part of leave me aloneism. Then there were the activist, anarchist kind of freaking man. I said leave me alone, and we're gonna, Robin Hood all the parking meters and putting in stuff and piss off everybody and do the sidewalk chalking and protesting of suing of whatever. There was the activist part. Then there were the politico parts. Now they were the ones, we got to run for office and wear ties and all that kind of crap. So you had really three different flavors of people that were going to New Hampshire. Totally anarchist. I don't want to be on any list. I want to do some crazy activism, not worrying about getting elected, and then getting elected. And which is probably the bigger demographic that are moving there now. They want to get into politics. They want to do the activism. They want to do the leave me aloneism. What do you think?
I think it is shifting. Like I said, it's maturing. They're attracting a lot more people that want family and communities and not so much. I think, we lived through peak liberty. I think those years between 2007 to 2010, like the Ron Paul, where everything was, the internet was still uncensored, social media was new. We got to actually put our message out unfiltered. That kind of stuff brought that element out. But now, I can get on, again, YouTube and see 10 forms of cop activism in one search. It's not rare anymore. It's not something I have to go to New Hampshire to find. It's everywhere, which is awesome for us. But the flip side is that I think New Hampshire now has shifted to real life communities where people are kind of tired of just doing everything online and they want to be part of something that actually exists instead of talking. And New Hampshire, this isn't like an overnight success. This took a lot of sacrifice, 20 years of people busting their butt and taking lumps and burning out to get us to the point where we're now actually effective. And I'm excited to bring more people that want that because, again, I am not a politics guy. I don't like politics, but I really like New Hampshire politics because they're removing government, So if you see it that way and you're willing to vote in self-defense, come up, man. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, to visit. I enjoy every time I go to New Hampshire. I get a sense of, it's just a weight is off, and it's really recharging.
Well, and I like your place in Arizona too. It was nice. I haven't seen your new homestead. I'd like to see it, but I'm sure it's very Wild West out there feeling, like you're
Wild West.
Wild West. And I think that's cool. And we need lots of
open range cattle West. I mean, the one thing I wanted to mention is Patrick. What's Patrick's last name? The contractor guy. I can't remember. And his wife.
He's a FreeStater?
Yeah. He does anyway. Patrick is he was involved with the Free State, and he and his wife, as I remember, he used to do roofing or something with his family business in Southern California. And as a young man, and no children, then they started having children, but he and his wife traveled the country and even Mexico and everything looking for a place that had this feel. They were looking for freedom. Well, they went to the Jackalope Freedom Festival we have here. They toured Arizona. They went, and they decided on New Hampshire. What happens, he had a lot of building skills and he knew, how to, drive nails. And so he started a contracting business there, and you don't need any permits or anything. No licenses, no nothing. I can go help build the deck, a house of whatever, and just do it. Well, he just did it. So that becomes a thing and a business, and he, is prospered doing that. these are the kind of people that if you have some skills, some trades, and you want to go and exercise, start a business, it's easier. Just go to New Hampshire and do it.
And we're actively making it easier. This is what's so cool is you can talk to the legislators and be like, look, they're making me do x-rays do my x-ray machine every year. That's ridiculous. I don't need it inspected every year. Could you change the law so it's every 10 years? And somebody will submit that law for you. It's crazy, the stuff I'm seeing, how easy it is to get stuff done, at least on the books here, at least out, where if I lived in another state, they would just ignore me and not do any of that stuff. So there's the fact that New Hampshire is so accessible that you can be like, hey, I don't like this law. And a year later, someone will put it out for you to remove the laws. Now, does it happen? Not all. No, I wish it did. I wish they removed a lot of laws, but it is happening. They are making some big wins. So at least some of it's going the right direction. I'm really proud. I mean, these guys.
Patrick Binder. Binder.
That's Binder. Okay. Patrick. Yeah. Yeah, I know that. So I would say, though, that, again, if your listeners are there and you're just like, man, I wish I could find a community. I wish I could find like-minded people. I'm willing to – my state's falling apart and it's not getting any better. Come check us out. You don't have to live here. Just come visit for a while like I did. Snowbird for a while. See what you think. You don't have to be so committal of but once you're here, you'll be like, yeah, this is right for me or it's not. And I'm old school that I'm only looking for the right people. Like, I don't want you if you're wishy-washy and are going to, become a hardcore leftist as soon as you're here. You're not doing us any favors. I want people that are self-sufficient and are good neighbors.
Well, define good neighbor.
A good neighbor is someone that will leave you alone and that will be there if you need something, but you have to be a good neighbor to them. There's people that moved here from Germany, and they are building a dome just like yours. And they didn't know too many people. They knew a handful of people, but people here in the North Country were so excited that these people moved all the way from Germany to have a taste of freedom that I think there's something like 20 of us showed up to build this dome for them. We have move-in parties where people will help complete strangers. We show up and we be good neighbors and we help. People will call me and see if they can borrow tools, and I'll call them and, hey, I need a tree removed. Can you help me? So we have a community, which is stupid that, 40 years ago, this existed everywhere. You would have a small town where and like an Amish community or something, everybody helps each other out. But over the last few years, the last 20 years, they've just destroyed the American family where you have 4 kids and none of them live at home near the house. They're all scattered to the wind and nobody knows anyone. And so they're just dying for a community to help. And the hard part is learning to be a good neighbor yourself. When people need help, you've got to step up and go out and help them. You can't be greedy and it's all about you. You need to be a good neighbor if you expect them to be good neighbors. And that message has got through here in the North Country. I mean, people come out of the woodwork to help each other. I think that's really important. And I think if things go down, really go down again, I already have a group of network that I trust, that I can trade with, I can do stuff with, we can protect each other. If they try to pull the COVID BS again, I think there'll be enough of us here organized and ready this time to be like, no. I mean, they caught everybody off guard last time. I don't think that will happen again. So I'm excited just to have community. I wish I had a lot more. I mean, it's still in this infant stage in a way, but it's working. It's finally big enough that it's working. So come, it's an exciting time. Get here before
define big enough. What does that mean?
Big enough. I'm speaking legislation-wise. They finally have enough reps to do stuff. We can remove laws and get rid of stuff out of our life that's annoying, that affects my business and affects my pocketbook directly. There's also enough of a community that we can have a party and there's enough people that show up and our kids can hang out together and we can have, friends and stuff over to play cards. And, there's a community here that is big enough that has happened, because 10 years ago when I came up, that community wasn't really everywhere. It was
the community that you're in. I mean, the people, the indigenous people that live there and so on, there was a campaign, them damn free staters, are they becoming more
still some
tolerant, more supportive?
Yes, in a way, because we are attracting I'm a good neighbor. Like, I don't know what the political beliefs of this town is, but I spend a lot of money in town. I help my neighbors if they ask. We cook cinnamon rolls. I'll drop off cinnamon rolls to my neighbors. So even if they are opposite political views, I'm still a good neighbor. Like, I can communicate with them and talk to them.
That's all it takes.
And I think that is the most important activism, is don't be a jerk. Like, I understand.
Rule one, don't be a dick.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, because honestly, all my friends and neighbors are voting to use the government to take my house away if I don't pay for their kids to go to school. That's like super aggression. You're threatening me with cops to steal my house if I don't pay for your kids to go to school. So it's hard to be nice to those kind of people that have no problem voting to steal from you. But the flip side is, when you get to know some of these people, they don't necessarily see it that way. They don't understand what they're doing. They're just going along with, my little Ryan wants to play baseball, so, this needs to happen. And it's like, they don't think it through as far as, yeah, but you're stealing from all your friends and neighbors so little Ryan can play baseball. It's changing. These people are dying off. I keep saying, in 10 years, this is going to be a different world. A lot. And I'm trying to set up the next generation so they know what the heck freedom is. They understand, and they have a way out. Because I'm really concerned about, your grandkids, Ernest, and my kids, that they have.
As am I.
They have.
Well, that was the whole point of Freedom's Phoenix. From the ashes of
Yeah.
Lady Liberty's torch, Freedom's rebirth, and it's my grandkids.
You were the first people to call it Generation Next. Like, they are the ones.
There's always a generation next.
And we're the last people on the planet that understood what it was like to live free. They never had a taste of it. They don't understand. Their normal is, of course, you have to go to the government to get permission to do something. They have no idea. So when we show them this alternative side, like we raise our kid in the Liberty community, and it's like, no, you don't need anything. Go do what you want. If you get in trouble, we'll deal with it. Like, go do this stuff. And I think that message has gotten back. And I hate to say it, it's like bringing back the 1980s here. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring back a time that was simpler and better.
Well, New Hampshire had a different. I mean, the slogan "Live Free or Die," is on the license plate. It's like a big thing, but there is always a contingent of somebody, progressives, Republicans, them, whatever, that want to get rid of that. They always introduce.
Don't get me wrong. That contingent is still here, and it's everywhere in New England. But the numbers have just squeaked up enough that it's tipping. That we're finally at the point where those people are uncomfortable in leaving New Hampshire. We're making them so uncomfortable. And they don't understand why everybody doesn't want more government and voting for it. They don't get it. And then the locals that have always been here are kind of like swaying with us because they grew up in that environment and they want to keep it. But the state's very divided. By next to Massachusetts, there's a bunch of immigrants from Massachusetts that have massed it up down there. And then up in the North Country where I am, above in the mountains, it's all a bunch of country folk that take care of each other. So they don't have any nonsense with that, so it's almost two different countries in New Hampshire.
Well, one of the things that was appealing is the attitude that persisted, while the progressives were trying to take it over. Things like no permits for a lot of different things, but one of the things is they don't have a mandatory seatbelt. I don't think
we're the last state without seatbelts. We don't have helmet laws. We don't have any of that.
And they have fully informed juries.
Yeah, beach is a thing here.
Well, we'll talk about how that's implemented, how that works.
Well, I haven't been on jury duty, but I do know some people that have done activism. But as far as I understand it, I'm pretty sure a long time ago they got through a bill that the judges have to talk about FEJA, where they used to be able to bury it. And if you guys don't know what that is, fully informed jury is if you were to go to jury duty and you disagreed with the law itself, you have the right to vote against it. So, if someone's guilty of something, but the law is dumb and shouldn't exist, you can be like, nah, they didn't make their case. I'm done. And
it's called jury nullification, because the jury is the ultimate. And they do voir dire, which is questioning, will you do exactly as the judge says and I say, and you have to? Well, they got to inform
there's a lot of
if you by conscience you do not agree with the law or how it was applied, you can just say not guilty because I can say not guilty.
And I know there's other areas of the country where they're trying to take away from that. Like the jury will say not guilty, and the judge will turn around and be like, "Yeah, the jury, we're not going with that. We're going with guilty." They'll just supersede, and judges should be able to do that. The jury's the last check. And New Hampshire, they protected that right, so I hope judges can't do that.
Well, certainly go up against the stream, But the main thing is it's that attitude. There's kind of we should do that, and you have enough free staters to help make sure that gets codified in law and so on.
Have you met Eric Brakey, the guy that's in charge now?
I know Eric. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have him on the show. He'd know these answers a lot better than me. I dabble in these things and I understand them, but my activism's more on the Agora side, like ignore the government. And do
Eric has taken over. He was a legislator in Maine, and he's run for Congress, Senate, whatever. He's been, a player. And his uncle is a guy named Ed Brakey. That's a progressive activist in election law and whatever. So I
didn't know that.
I know him well. We've been that's long story, election law stuff, but that's how I knew of him. And then Derek Slopey was a big supporter of Eric, in Maine, because he lives in Maine. And
I like him. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with him, and so far, I think it was a really good move. The Free State Project hired him. He's kind of calmed a lot of that stuff down. And
so he came from Maine to run the Free State Project as executive director or whatever it is that he does. And so during this dust up about whether they're going back to Rogers Campground or not, there was forces that wanted to do something. What are they going to do for Pork Fest? Do they have a place?
I don't know, because they're still I'm not on the inside of this. I'm only getting rumors, so I'll tell you what I know is, so as far as I know, Rogers is a no-go. Crosby's over it. But Crosby has been known to change his mind, so I don't know if they're working behind the scenes to try to get him. What was your take when you talked to him a week ago? Did he seem like he was open to saying, well, all right, bygones be bygones?
His main thing is there is an online campaign, which I know some of that has to do with progressive Democrat. They are trying to drive a wedge between the Free State and Rogers, because he's been protecting us from law enforcement. Nobody can go into the campground. They used to have tax collector revenue. You got a permit. Company like, whoa. There's a price. Get your ass out. So you can count on Crosby. That was worth $1 gazillion as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
He deserves. He needs to upgrade his electrical and plumbing. We just go help. Pay it forward. But but there was such bad social media, Yelp, a campaign to make his campground seem like a crap hole and you shouldn't go and can't and whatever, and it was affecting his business. And he couldn't get them to stop or get enough defense from people. Like, I go on and, promote, this is the greatest thing ever. But it was so relentless, and he couldn't get support from the Free State Project enough he goes, it's just not worth it to me, because, he's always had a price, $3 million, and the campground's yours. I mean, everybody's always wanting to buy it.
He feels first like trade. He feels like
he really bent over backwards, and there was a campaign that was, I don't know who fueled this thing, but it was definitely, you could see the left influence. And the reason I know this is because when you do any research, a lot of the viral newspaper articles or whatever written in newspapers in Vermont. And, you have, that's kind of the liberal bastion of whatever. And so there's a campaign. Well, he's just like, man, I don't need this. I could fill up my campground with that. If they weren't bad mouthing me, we'd be fine. So he's just like, look, it's not worth it. And you're not really defending and I was the only one that said, look, Crosby, what's the problem? Well, when all these 3,000 guys come in with their Teslas and want to charge it on Pork Fest, and it just zaps the power of whatever, we need to upgrade some of the electrical. Then the plumbing. Well, somebody goes up and opens the valve. on the water tank and drains it, and now everybody's bitching about the water. Or the side goes, well, we could put locks on and fix this and do that, and we got a bunch of guys that know how to, use a screwdriver, so we'll just go fix it. Does that solve the problem? He said, yeah, you can come up at the end of the season while we're winterizing, which would have been like last month, and we'll take care of business. But there was not a big support for that. There was something, I don't know, where this was driving from, but Eric, I had talked to Eric about this.
I was gonna say, maybe you should do the negotiating to get them back at Rogers, because you're solving. Well,
I mean, it's not my thing. Because
you could help. Like I tried.
I've been trying. I negotiate.
I got nothing but good things to say about Crosby. He really threw me a lifeline when I was in a hard spot, and so I'm always going to say good things about Crosby.
Yeah, no, he's a really nice guy. And every time I go up, we've been golfing for decades. I mean, we go up and I get to meet, a lot of, we go golfing with the fireman head guy of whatever, or some city council, whatever. So I got a feel for Lancaster, the town up there that used to be kind of, them Free Staters, we're not. Then all of a sudden they see how much their grocery sales go, and they're like, whoa, man, we like having these guys
spend a lot of money and bring business to that, and it's the biggest thing that comes through that town. So
this has been.
I think it's going to hurt financially for a lot of people. The hotels are going to feel it. Everybody else is going to feel not having this in town. And Crosby does change his mind about some stuff once in a while. Maybe a couple months got to go by, and he'll allow it. But
he's negotiating. That's why he called me. Just want to know what was.
That's good.
I wanted to get a feel. His view is this: he didn't get enough love. They're always demanding more and more and more and more and more, and he's been very deferential to Porcupine Freedom Festival. He's enjoyed the support politically for a lot of laws they're trying to pass, because they're trying to legislate, him and the campgrounds kind of out. They're, more and more, especially since COVID and all that kind of stuff. And that was one reason why I went to one of the Pork Fests right in the middle of COVID. He's like, screw it. Yeah, we're open, bring it up. And
the only festival open during that year, 2020, we were the only festival running Pork Fest. So and
he expected more deference and just more demands on him. He's like, I don't need this. It's not worth it. And I'm wondering what their backup plan was. So they're going to have a place.
Here's what I know. They looked around at a couple different places, and most of them are already taken. So, they were looking at some fairgrounds and things like that. They cannot find. Crosby owns the largest private campground, and for you to have 1,000 people to 1,200 people coming in for Pork Fest, all the other campgrounds cannot handle anything close to that are private. You could go to a government campground, but they're going to be like, well, no guns, no permit. Got to have permit. You got to no kids riding around. The other campgrounds are so full of rules that it would just destroy the whole freedom vibe. And then what they decided to try to do was find a private property. There's some people, some larger farms, 200 or 300 acre farms and fields, and they were going to go primitive. And they're like, we already bring all this stuff in for Crosby, like bathrooms and water and power. We could just keep that stuff going and go primitive and do out on someone's farm. And I know that they were in negotiations with someone, but I don't know whatever happened to that.
Well, then you get into liabilities and insurance and all this stuff that he already has in place.
Liability with Crosby. I mean, any business has liability. So there's got to be legal forms around that stuff. If everybody has to sign a waiver to come in, then so be it. That's what the cost is.
Well, I wish it to continue, and I do planning
too.
I'm
heartbroken it's not, but
yeah, I was planning on not missing this year, because I promised Crosby we would make the effort. But if it's not going to be there,
there'll be something.
A lot of interest.
What will probably happen if there is no Pork Fest? People will break up and go to make their own smaller things, kind of like what Fork Fest is already doing. FORK, Fork Fest.
Yeah.
They will just do smaller events on private properties or other places, and it will break up into, a group. Instead of 1,200, it'll go back to 300 or 400 people at a small campground somewhere. And if that's what has to happen, then that's what has to happen to save it. And I don't mind, because I remember the days when it was small. I liked Pork Fest when it was small. You knew everybody. We hung out, and my Pork Fest exists of 100 people anyway. I see just these people I kind of know, and I hang out and I catch up, and before I know it, Pork is over. So like, I don't care if it goes smaller, but I understand as a outreach vehicle, it needs to be as big as we can get it.
Well, that's how it was seen. You know, the pressure was you came to Pork Fest. When you moving? You're not moving here. You came. You got to move.
A little taste of what a community could be like. You know, back then it was very important because nobody had seen anything like that. And you go for this 1 week and you're like, wow, so yeah, maybe this could work. And now the communities are existing and maturing that it is like that up here in a lot of places. There's little pockets of it. So like I can live Pork Fest every day here. You know, it's not, is it a little different? Yeah, there's not there's not a ton of people running around. But
and Pork Fest had changed. I want to bring this up.
Yeah.
When you would go in the early years, like I think we started in 08, 09, around in there.
I think it was 08 or 09 was my first year.
And when we, because Levolution thing and Free State and Support Above and that kind of stuff. So we go and you see a bunch of younger guys, 20-year-olds walking around, lighting up a doob. And guys walking around with AR-15s on their back and all that kind of, man, you got to go to Pork Fest. It's so awesome. You can be in freedom of awesome. And then these guys matured, started having children. Then it became a big family thing. Here comes all the kids. Yeah. And they're like, hey, man, go smoke your weed over there. I mean, have your, orgy sex dome, in the back. I mean, that kind of stuff. So they became more conservative, more friendly, family-oriented in a freedom environment. Yeah. Nobody was told what they could or couldn't do. It was just, you don't need to put it in my face, which is what the LGBTQ kind of thing was trying to infiltrate and do, and we're all running around naked or doing what it changed because it evolved into a more family-oriented thing and having all these little kid entrepreneurs going around because they would have an entrepreneur day for the kids, and then all of a sudden you got all these little kids wanting to walk your dog and clean your campground and sell you beads and stuff, which of course, a lot of our money went to, supporting some 3D printed magnet thing, what these kids are doing. So
I bought everything a kid sold.
Right. They come up, do you want it? Yeah, absolutely. What do you got? I mean,
You got
so it was, and I've seen these kids grow up and become little entrepreneurs. There was a girl that kind of took it seriously and did the dog walking thing, and she recruited other kids to do the dog walking thing. Then when they went back home, she started doing it in her neighborhood, and it was, it became a business. This little junior high kid making, whatever she learned at Porcupine Freedom Festival. So I've interviewed a lot of these guys, like, James Babb's girls, they always doing stuff. And, James has been a big part of this. And it has been a touchstone and an inspiration for what's happening. And Tarrin, I know, is living it. He's traveled around, done a lot. And, you're more comfortable there with the community that is blossoming. When you say you have these meetups and so on for free stater kind of stuff, is it open to locals? I mean,
certain things. So like at the Pine, the club we have, they have certain days where they're market days and people will sell stuff up there and they open that to the public so they can come up and it's like a little flea market upstairs or a craft fair. And then there's stuff that is purely just for members only, and so it's different. It depends on the vibe.
So what's the member requirement? You got a secret handshake?
No, you just pay money. So think of it like Moose Lodge, like Moose Lodge, you pay $30 a month and that's the kind of, you get to use the Moose Lodge. It's kind of the same thing. It's a fraternal club, if you can look at it that way.
Well, there's a lot of, what do you think is the big new issue? New Hampshire, they're focused on what in the legislature? They're going to change something. What do you think?
Currently, there's a lot of fighting over gerrymandering, like trying to close the door of a bunch of shady voting. The big reason I think New Hampshire's really weird politically. They're Republican, liberty activist Republican in the House, a little bit in the Senate, and then the governor is Republican in name, but, it's kind of a rhino. And the actual legislators that are national, like the congressmen, they're all Democrat. So it's a very weird thing that there's a lot of shady stuff. I think that's the reason they're Democrats is like a big part of it was they have colleges here like Dartmouth and stuff, and they would allow those students to vote in the elections, and the vote would they would only lose like the election by the amount of students. It'd be like 30,000 votes, and they were mostly students. So they're trying to get rid of that kind of stuff. That if you don't live here and you don't have an ID, you shouldn't vote. That kind of thing's been going through this year. They're removing a lot of loops, and I think the big explosive issue right now is going to be property taxes. Because property taxes all over the country are going up as inflation skyrockets and the dollar loses value. Property taxes are going to be the big blow up, and they're trying to put the handcuffs kind of on the towns because the towns won't control themselves and keep raising taxes to astronomical levels in some places. So I think that is going to be the explosive issue. Is the state is trying to pass something saying that the towns can only maybe go up 2% a year instead of 10%, that kind of thing, and they don't like it because it's taking away local control. But the local control, these are out of control. Like it's all good old boy network and teachers voting themselves a salary. So let me explain the numbers to you, Ernest. A town of my size, okay, say there's about 1,200 people here. So I'll make the math easy. There's 1,000 people in this town. Only 15% show up to vote. So 150 people decide where all that property tax money goes. 150 people, and you only have to have a majority of them. So 70%, you're talking about like a 7 or 8% minority. 8% minority can tax all the other 92%. And it's all teachers. They're mandated pretty much by their schools to show up and vote for these things. So they show up and vote themselves a raise. And they vote themselves money. And it happens in every little town. So you go, like I go to the town meeting, and all they need is 7% of the population, 8% of the population to show up and vote. And they can take money from the other 93%. And since it's always been this way, people think it can't ever change, and it's just the way it is. And what do you know? And I think that issue is going to explode very soon. It's already starting. So I'm curious to see what will happen with that coming up. I think.
Okay, I'm going to send you a link in the chat here.
All right.
Boom. And I want you to, familiarize yourself with this and share, but it's this. We've been following this, and what it is, massive property tax fraud exposed. $5.1 trillion bond scam will crash the system.
Interesting.
This was discovered by a guy in Texas, and we've been following this, and he's uncovered it. He was whatever, it doesn't matter. He's a small developer, built some homes, and he found, like, across the street, this one's a lot more on this one. What's going on? And as he went through this to discover what was going on, all these override school bonds of the bonds, and the money it's gone. Thanks for playing, and we, put it off into whatever. Well, he's uncovering this. This information is something that should be shared, because I guarantee it's going on all over the country. And this is about to break.
I think here, if I'm not positive, maybe you can have Eric on to talk about this, but there is a county here in New Hampshire that I think this is happening, and they are massively underfunded, and they are begging the government to give them money to fund and make up for this. And the government, like the Liberty activists, are saying no. Sink or swim. And so I'm really curious what's going to happen with that if, as the shady money starts disappearing, where it's going to happen. And I think it's coming. I think property tax is going to be the next big fight. And what I go back to, Ernie, and maybe you know the answer to this, there wasn't always property taxes. There was a time before property taxes where stuff was funded voluntarily. If you wanted a school, the people chipped in and they built a little school on someone's property, and that's where they went. They wanted a fire department, it was a volunteer fire department. They raised money and did balls. That kind of stuff. If you wanted a sheriff, people would hire their own sheriffs. The businesses would get together and hire a sheriff. So it was all private at one time. who was the first generation to sell out and be like, you know what? Yeah, you can totally take my house if I don't pay you. Like that first generation that allowed this to happen is who I really blame. Like I want to go back 100 years and be like,
well,
what
the
happened?
people that turned in their
give
gold.
that authority to government in the very first place. I don't get
Tell me
it.
about different currencies that are used there. You know, I like this goldback thing. How's that work?
Goldback's, you know, I just bought some candy with goldback. There's a lady down the street that has a candy shop that takes goldback. Goldback's still going strong. You know, my goldback dollars, I got them at PorcFest, I think, for $4.
Well, explain what it is.
Oh, goldbacks they are actually gold. About about $8 worth of gold right now. And what they do is they spray gold onto a plastic piece of that suspends the gold. Ah, there you go. There's some pictures. And they put artwork.
They're beautiful.
It's beautiful. They're beautiful, and they're real gold. And at first, I thought it was I was like shady about it, but I remember, I think, God, I don't know who it was. Maybe Alex Jones. They started melting it and finding out if the real amount of gold was in there, and was it just in there, it was more than they said it was. So
yeah, you put this in a crucible, put a torch to it, it burns away everything, gold.
It's gold.
It's actual gold.
So it's a way to have gold in dollar form that makes it easy to carry around. And
well, these $1 or 1 gram or one,
and when they make it, it's valued at, you know, this is probably equivalent to a 1 FRN, but then now that
no, the
$1,
I think when you melt them down, the ones were about $3-4, which is now like $10. I mean, you know, whatever. But
yeah,
it was when you get these larger ones, you get up to a 50. It's heavier. I mean, you know, it'll fold and put in a bill. They had their own little billfolds. I bought, you know, a whole set for a friend of mine, and you can feel it. I mean, it's weight.
I like them. I don't. As much as I like crypto on some stuff, I don't trust it like forever. Like what happens when there's no electricity, or you know what happens in these small communities. So I still going back to junk silver and goldbacks. They're still around. People still do business in silver up here and gold. But what's interesting is as the community is growing, I'm noticing a lot more bartering. Going back to, you know, I'll trade you.
I got a backhoe.
Yeah, maple syrup for coming to backhoe and not taking the street down. There's a lot of that. I've noticed that what's interesting, Ernie, is food is the new currency, which is interesting. Like I didn't expect that people would trade food more than gold and silver, and because you would think that during a crisis where people didn't have food, they would trade whatever to get food, but they're doing it now. So I'm noticing they'll trade, you know, maple syrup or honey or whatever.
This is when we started the dime cards.
That's the dime cards. I still got mine.
I got a bunch of them, you know, and people would be very creative. Tarrin did a bunch of stuff with them.
It's on to promote one of my books.
Yeah, it was because you know, the Pirates of Savannah, you go to different things and the kids kind of learned that, and they go, "Ooh, I want the card. Give me the card, man." You know.
Yeah, we'd sell the card at cost and just to get silver out.
Well, we put on the back of it.
Educating people like this is what I remember. You had a dime card that would have a piece of silver and it'd be like a piece of bread, and be like, this piece of silver should buy a piece of bread. You know, like a loaf of bread.
You know, that's where you get the term a dime a dozen, dime a dozen, dime a dozen. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? It's a dozen eggs you could get for a silver dime.
That makes
it kept up with inflation. You know, that's why they kept going. It's a dime a dozen. So I got dimeadozen.info, and we started. You know, when we were doing eggs.
I thought that was cool activism. I really like that activism. I honestly think crypto's around and it's going to be around, but I honestly think it's going to be probably government controlled and things are going to swing back.
Yeah, there it goes. Well, that's one thing I wanted to talk about, the Bitcoin conference in Vegas. This is what happened. I go up there.
I think land's a good investment.
Yeah, you know, well, you have to have a place. You don't want the man clipboards all over you, but you know, get papered. But what happened was, I go to the Bitcoin conference, and they have shifted. This is why they went after Roger. They didn't like that he called it Bitcoin Cash. You know, they're like, well, nope, because the original paper was it was digital cash. Well, they didn't. They did this store of value thing. They just want to go up, hodl, and not use it as a currency. Well, I got $100,000 hoodies all through my closet. I mean, Bitcoin here and there. I remember back when it was.
I got a camera that's $1.67.
You know,
I spent 11 Bitcoins to buy a camera. $1 million camera I got in my house. It hurts every time I see it. I'm like, oh my God, I'd be so rich.
Well, that was, and that was the attitude
to get it out and use it,
Right. And that was, what we're doing with Xano now is kind of, you have to use it to build the market. And it's starting to shoot up, by the way. But the whole point is that it was Liberty money. And we had the traits that we wanted: anonymity, security, speed, cheap to use, and so on. Well, all those went away. It was, they wanted it get adopted and integrated into the banking system and ETFs of, because they turned Bitcoin into paper, and the guy, we're done. I just like
stuff.
I'm not down with that. So if we're going to use crypto, it's going to have the features that we were promised. So that's why we're working on the Xano project.
The privacy coins are still around, the Moneros and stuff, but
which is what Xano is.
I was going to say I would be down to try Xano. I don't know anything about it. So
well, the guy that I been interviewing him and whatever. The bottom line is this: there is a core. I can't remember what they called it, but it was the development that allowed for Monero. That guy is the one that's the main developer on Xano.
Okay,
so
it's like an updated Monero.
Right, and it's kind of like. Vitalik Buterin, when he had Ethereum, he was wanting to integrate that into the Bitcoin chain to have these different options of doing, other coin, all this kind of stuff. And they had, there was a plan from the beginning. They wanted it to turn into this programmable digital government, whatever the hell thing. So screw you, and he went and did Ethereum. So I've followed this and interviewed all the guys since the beginning. And you could see there was always a human factor. So my estimation was, if they, them, those won't leave us alone, T3, if they can manipulate, control, develop, and whatever they want, if they can, is it physically possible? That was one thing I kept hammering on. I'm talking to all the promoters of, like Andreas Antonopoulos was one of the early guys, and I'm going, look, how is it done? Where's the human factor? Who controls? What are the developers? Who's the mining? Who's going to approve the 51% of we allow whatever? How is that done? Once you find that there's a human factor, here comes Blockstream. Well, Blockstream was funded heavily by Hal DeCastries, which is a big insurance mogul out of France or whatever, and he was chairman of two Bilderbergers. Oh, well, hell, we're fine now. I mean,
everything's good.
So I'm going, here it goes, because they can until they cannot. So I'm looking for the cannots. Well, here comes Xano. So I'm doing a video presentation for the Nonconformist series for Anarchapulco. I have a video due December 15th for at the end of the year. They'll do it. It's all based on Xano as a project, using like our dime cards and the gold backs and alternative currencies, and how communities can do what we're doing. So that's what they want me to speak on. Then I'll be speaking and pushing Occupy the Land as a solution at Anarchapulco and Puerto Vallarta in February. Don and I are going down for that. And it is, this has been my solution. Of all the activism that I've done, I've always, come up with creative activism. And I could see what it was. It was Free State Project kind of thing. It's homesteading. And I don't care, occupy the land. I mean, buy your land. I mean, I just don't plop out, or do that. I don't give a crap. But, the thing is that this is the solution. You need to source your own water, grow your own food, have your own homeschooling, educate your own kids, teach them how to do trades. You want to know how to do trades? Build a house. I'll learnify you. So this is the kind of thing that is coming. Now, Doug Casey and Matt Smith did a book called The Preparation, and it's 16 modules, 3 months each, so you get a 4-year education. And Matt Smith, they just did a show on Glenn Beck. We've been, pushing a lot of this stuff. I said, I'm in. Doug, you've been wanting us to help you with it. This is it. Because I get the book, give it to my grandson. I'm here we go. And what it is, he's learning to be a pilot. He got his EMT. He started making $600 a day working wildfires as an EMT, and he's 20 years old, maximum. He learned to sail, went around Straits of Magellan. You know, he was a cowboy, a gaucho in Uruguay. He's going to Thailand to learn Muay Thai, you know, for self-defense, take shooting courses. There's a heavy equipment place in New Hampshire. No, that's in Florida. In Florida, he's learning to do heavy equipment operation. He's done, a bunch of welding. I mean, all these modules are teaching. Oh, it's in New Hampshire. They have a program where young people go there. You pay to build a house. In 3 weeks, you build a house.
Oh, wow.
And they go through all this. So this is the kind of education, and it's cheaper than sending them to university, and you make money while you're doing it. So this has become, it's how to make a man out of you. You know, now, of course, women can do it too, but that's not really the point. The point is that this young men is what they're targeting, which is why, you know, Charlie Kirk was targeted, why Nick Fuentes is like, you know, the bane of everybody's existence, and, you know, Andrew Tate kind of thing. This manning up of our society is a target. And it has been for a long time. Well, it's starting to push back. And these kinds of things, and to exercise your manliness, you want to be all manly? Go to New Hampshire in the winter. I'll make a man out of you. So, you know, yeah. So that's the draw. You have to have an example. Well, Tarrin's been a great example to a lot of people. He's just doing it with the right philosophy. What's your philosophy? What is it that you're trying to attain?
I'm a very much Ernest Hancock, leave me alone. Is like, we just do whatever we want, and if, you know, you get in trouble for it later, we figure it out. But that is 99.999% of my life. We never ever really have any problems. So, like, as long as you're ethical and not hurting people, you're good. Like, I think that's the other thing. Like, if you're doing unethical stuff, then you deserve whatever happens to you. But if you're trying to be on the level and help people and be nice, then you don't usually have any problems. Like, you know.
You know, one thing that I suggested, people that move there, especially do businesses and so on, such as yourself, has been integrate yourself in the community. Sponsor the freaking Little League team. Buy the uniforms. Be the, you know, a good neighbor and so on. Is that happening more?
It is. I mean, I try to be a good neighbor. It goes back to the small towns. Eventually, you're going to piss people off when you start pushing back against government control. But if you just want to move somewhere and just, you know, pay the extortion tax and chill out, then you can do that and have a nice life and a decent thing. If you just like, this is what it costs to live here. But if you're, if that bothers you down to your core and you can't have it, then, you know, you're going to have whatever area you have, somebody's in control of the purse strings and they hate you when you step in the way. So it doesn't matter if it's state legislation, you know, or your local town. It's always going to be a handful of people that don't like.
Well, when they stopped all the U.S. What do they call it? USAID money, and the NGOs got defunded, and you have the food stamps are finding that there's 500,000 accounts that get multiple illegal whatever food, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Well, are they pushing back? I mean, is there a contingent there?
As far as New Hampshire goes, I think they are starting to defund the programs, and it's a different world here. It's much harder to get stuff done up here. It's still, you know, they still have food stamps, they still have all that, but they're actively, the laws I'm seeing starting to be introduced are actively trying to root that stuff out. So I do feel like if the country goes bananas, because eventually there's going to be some sort of collapse. Mathematically, this country makes no sense. When there's a great reshuffling, I think New Hampshire will be in position to be strong. They're trying to start their own. They're trying to remove regulations on power, so like nuclear plants can be built here. They're trying to get more, you know, autonomous stuff. So like when the country implodes, we'll just step out and be like, you know, have a good time. Because I'm hoping all that stuff's in place. And I think New Hampshire's actively doing a good job of that. It's hard. You know, again, you're going against people that are paid by huge lobby efforts, and you know that stuff. You've been in this game for a long time, Ernie. You know, It's really hard to go against that kind of money. I mean, we're nickel and diming people, and but we're still winning. So,
was anybody being targeted like they were doing Ian? I guess they thought if they got Ian, then everything would stop or something. I don't know what the hell they're thinking.
It has definitely getting rid of Ian. I don't think people realize what a big deal that was. He brought a lot of people up here, and he was one of the most consistent. For 20 years, Free Talk Live brought so many people to New Hampshire for the Free State Project. It was just a nonstop advertisement for it. And like it or hate it, it was still very effective. And I think that has hurt. They've done a hit on that. But the actual Free State Project itself has gotten very organized in the last couple of years. I think Eric stepping up has organized it well. And they are actively, it's a lot more political, like I'm saying, but they'll do here's an example. There's an election up here in Berlin, and it was a Republican, although he's not a libertarian, he pretty much votes with libertarians, and a Democrat. And it's a small little country town that should go Democrat, it's a little factory town. And the libertarians organized a door knocking thing and went out, and they won by 4 votes. And it was all because these activists basically went and knocked doors for them. So that doesn't happen very often where you can win. It's that close, where you're gonna. But that's a very real example that will affect my freedom in pocketbook, having, my reps be the right people.
Well, the atmosphere of the locals there, are they more tolerant, supportive? They, aren't,
they're still
a free stater. I mean, how are they thinking?
There's some of that. There's definitely, the Democratic, we call them college professors. It seems to be like they're professors in mass that retire and come up here, where they want to enjoy the freedom of New Hampshire and they love the no taxes and the lifestyle, but they want all the other politics of mass with it. And so there are some hardcore Democrats, but they're very old and they're starting to age out, and they hate it. But more and more of the younger people that are like, yeah, I'm getting taxed to death, and I'm hearing what you're saying. I think the younger people in my generation, Gen X, I think is going to step up and save a lot of this. I think it's going to turn around. Again, this is all, I hate to be like this, but it's mainly boomers. They're like the biggest voting bloc, and this is what they've always known, and it's always worked for them, and that's ending. So, I remember you said this, I think 15 years ago, and I was laughing so hard where you were in an interview with someone, and you were like, yeah, we're just waiting for all you guys to die off. And I was like,
right.
I don't remember who that was with, but it made me laugh so hard. I was like, he's right. I mean, they have all the power. There's not much you can do until they die off. We can be thorns in their side, but eventually,
it was a supper club that I
interview. Yeah.
Well, I was probably telling the story where that originated. It was a supper club that's here. It's an economic thing, and a lot of politicos, judges, doctors, lawyers kind of go to this, Republican, Cato kind of people, senior fellows at Cato go to this thing. As a matter of fact, I just went this last Wednesday, a couple of days ago, and they had Students for Liberty up there now, and they got the Arizona Project, a bunch of kids from around the world, come to Arizona, and they got to go shooting, that kind of thing. And I'll be interviewing them in a few days. And what happened was they take the summer off. And that summer I had lost 30 pounds or something. I was wearing a suit and overcoat. I was kind of looking good. I had just grown a beard and it's gray. Then I walk in and all of a sudden, been over the summer, and it was during a lot of activism had done the Levolution and that kind of thing. And I walk in, everybody got quiet. And they're looking at me. And I'm like, I didn't understand. And then I realized what was going on. They had seen that I had aged or matured. I was, mid 40s, 50, something like that. I'm 64 now, so this is a while ago. And I had told them at the end of the season before, they had asked me this. Well, what do you think's going to happen? I go, well, I'm just waiting for you guys to die off. The generation next is, here it comes, get over it. It's demographics. When I came a few months later, and I go and they see me with a gray beard, and I go, we're here, and that was what it was. They're like, damn, they felt old. They were like, damn, we are winking out, and they have been starting to die off. Well, that's why we have Students for Liberty at this event now. Now we have, there's it's shifting, and it was just obvious what was going to happen. You get people, it's a Declaration of Independence. You suffer these things while they're sufferable, and then not. Then you acquiesce in the necessity and, kick ass. So it's a timing, it's like a revolution. That's why they call it revolution. It keeps coming around, the fourth turning, whatever the hell you want to call it. It is just an awareness, and the internet make these cycles go faster. All of a sudden you have people that are informed. And during the '08 campaign with Dr. Paul, it was the first time a presidential campaign made the Federal Reserve an issue, where people understood this stuff. Where before in the 90s as activists, we had to, spend a whole bunch of time trying to convince people that it wasn't federal and it wasn't reserve. I mean, it's just, go look it up. It's not in the blue pages, it's in the white pages. They're a private organization ripping you off. So as time goes on and people have access to this kind of information, it changes the flow, which is why the targeting and we did the Trump report yesterday, and finally a co-host, Dr. Frank, he goes, Nick Fuentes, he's the guy. This is the next thing it's going to be. And I'm like, why? Who the hell is he? I mean, I saw his interview with Tucker. He just seemed kind of, crass and, just bomb throwing, the kind of Andrew Tate kind of thing. And I'm going, what's the draw? So I asked Grok. So I go okay, Grok, tell me what's the solutions that he has? What is, the draw? What's the thing? So she reads it out loud and it was a very accurate description of Generation Next has just had enough. They're done. They're challenge authority. Young men want the, unfiltered kind of crass of freaking tired of supporting Israel kind of thing. And that's the thing. It's a third rail Israel. That's what's going on. Yeah. They are, man, whoa, hey, them's fighting words, And we even got Netanyahu coming out here in the last couple of days doing interviews saying, oh, yeah, well, we're self-sufficient now. We're not going to need U.S. military help anymore, which is a lie. They're going to do whatever they're going to do anyway. But at least he's having to say it.
The weapons aren't going to agree with that,
Yeah, no, that's all BS.
Run Halliburton.
So this has been, the information is coming from where now? Like you're saying, it's probably more X than it is YouTube now. What do you think?
I'm not sure. Like I said, that it's accelerated. I can talk to a 13-year-old kid about what the Federal Reserve is, and they understand it's a scam, which that is mind-boggling to me. Like you said, we had to do I had to go meet Griffin to get his book to explain this. Like it's accelerated. Yeah, thank you, Griffin. I couldn't remember his E. But it's accelerated. I think the next so the boomers have held on to power way longer than people thought would happen. And the next in line is Gen X, which Gen X is mostly pretty libertarian. I mean, they were raised with a lot of independence. We're the last generation to know what freedom is. We don't understand what's happening in the world. And I think Gen X is going to step up, and they're probably going to team up with maybe Gen Z, because Gen Z right now is the one that I think is going to make the biggest difference. They're going to
what age bracket is that?
That's surprisingly, the millennials are already in their 30s, so the millennials are kind of wishy-washy because there's a lot of far left millennials. Gen Z, the boys are in their early 20s, and they're down to 16 to 25 maybe, I think, is Gen Z. And they are getting to the point where they're waking up with a world that is bleak and doomish, and
like you said,
well, not necessarily, because they can't just go to school and get a job anymore. They have to, it's not like it was where it was easy to get a house or easy to get a girlfriend. Dating's completely changed. Everything is so backwards, and they watch TV and they see these shows and they think, what is this other planet that all this is happening? Because this isn't my reality. And Gen Z's hungry for leadership, and I think Gen X has to kind of throw them the lifeline and say, here, this is how your life could be better. They're willing to listen, and I think between our two generations working together, I think we can completely turn stuff around. And I think that's going to happen. I think some of the millennials will come in, and then, but it's basically we're just waiting for the boomers to kick off and let go of power. And I think and the fact that even the Free State Project exists is an example of that, because most of the people are Gen X that are here. Like almost everybody I hang out with Gen X.
You know, and there's the transfer of this wealth from the boomers to the other generations is coming, and they're going to want to get their hands on that. And that's what I fear is going to happen with the economy.
Ernest, you can't take opportunity away from young people without them just revolting. And we've gotten to the point where inflation has destroyed the dollar so bad that these kids don't have a chance to really do much like they used to. And so I don't think they're going to put up with it. They're going to vote them way out, and it's going to be either some communist that comes up and says, we'll give you all free stuff and you guys can have all, free housing and
Seattle and New York. I mean,
the libertarians that say, you know what, we're going to remove all these government shackles from you. We'll start a new currency. Don't even worry about the dollar, and we'll start something else. And I think that you're going to have those two worlds. They're going to divide. Like, I think there's going to be pockets of heavy socialism that people will drink the Kool-Aid and join it, and then people don't want anything to do with that. And Gen X Gen Z is getting pretty based on a lot of stuff. They're waking up. I'm very surprised that young demographic votes Republican, or that the men are, at least the boys in it, are a lot more libertarian.
I want to mention this. I'm of the impression that they, them, those know where all the money is. Why did you rob the bank? Because that's where the money is. Where the money is in what was the middle class, and certainly the boomers in their retirement. And when they go to these digital currencies and Bitcoin in every wallet that's programmable kind of thing, when they do this, and they're in the process, it's happening all over the world, that it's going to be targeted against, now gold has become 100% collateral asset of banks. That just changed in July. It's called a tier 1 investment thing, where before, people that held gold, they could only use 50% of its value as collateral equity of whatever the hell was going on. And they changed it to 1-to-1, gold is now 100% accessible as a reserve. And I'm going, it wasn't? Who the hell made that up, And so they do that, and then you go, what else is going on? Well, they do this stable coin thing to the dollar. Why the hell you make it stable to the dollar? Who gives a shit about dollar? That's going to go and make your crypto worth nothing anyway. So I'm going, okay. Then they go ahead and they say, your retirement, you can transfer it to stable coins. You take your 401k, your IRA, your pension funds, and we'll kind of do it, keep it in the dollar, but it's the treasuries, and keep that, and it's gone. And I can see this is going to be, what I'm seeing the infrastructure created is a vast bank robbery. It is going to be bank bail-ins, just like they did with Cyprus. It's going to be bank, you're lucky we let you have half of it back now, and that infrastructure is set up. The great taking, where it goes in to where all your equities with some broker that goes out of business, well, give me back my stock. Well, it's kind of up for who really owns it kind of thing. Yeah. So that infrastructure has been put up. So I am of the opinion that there is going to be a major crash that is going to wipe out a lot of the retirement pension, IRA, get out of paper. Buy silver, get gold, land, assets, tools, whatever to survive this thing, because it's going to be a food thing. And we saw that during COVID, saw it during lockdowns, we saw it during, the supply chain. We've seen it's already happened. They're testing us, gazillion times. And I'm thinking that the value that we have built up, the boomers have, that's a big giant bank they're going to take care of. And it's gone. So you gotta not. That's my opinion.
I'm gonna lay down a Lupo prediction here. So here's what I see. I think is going to happen. There's two things. One, I'm just going to throw this out there. What concerns me about crypto is the government can print as much money as they want and buy crypto and just take it over. Like, I don't understand. They could just simply buy massive amounts of Bitcoin with funny money and not even worry about it. So they're still.
They did that with gold. Okay, I got to inject this.
All right,
there was an activist
control all the crypto pretty much.
There is. I understand. There was an activist here, and we had one of the shirts that we had. She was wearing, and it said "The Fed did it," and it had an arrow pointing down. So I had her on camera. They were making signs, something the girls and Don and them they were doing. I was videotaping, and I go, "Renee, the Fed did it. Did what?" She goes, "Printed money and bought gold with it." And I go, "Wow, that simplified it." So that's what they're doing. They just print money, give it to BlackRock or whatever, go buy homes, buy gold, buy crypto, they just print money and go buy whatever the hell they want, and they give it to these guys that benefit from getting it first, and it doesn't start inflating everything, and then they buy stocks and equity, and that's going away. Now, what was his name? Michael Burry, the guy in The Big Short, that predicted what was going on. He just sent out, he goes, "Well, I'm off X now. This is my final letter. And I'm telling you, I'm closing all my stuff, taking all my money, sitting on the side. It's going down. Big letters, sell. Here it comes." This is Michael Burry. And I'm going, "Woo." He goes, I warned you, and I'm out. I'll come back later and do the neon "I told you so." And I don't think it's being given enough attention of how close we are. People are whistling past the graveyard.
Well, here's
occupy the land.
I'm going to jump back on you because here's what I think is going to go down. And nobody's really talking about it, but here's what I predict. What will happen is mathematically the dollar has to crash. It just can't. There's not enough money in the world to pay back the debt. So what's going to happen is one day we'll wake up and it will crash, and the people will scramble, people will freak out, and the politicians will come in with, "You know what? We're going to save everybody. We're going to scrap the dollar. We're going to do this digital currency, and you won't have any debt. We're going to wipe your debt. We're going to wipe your mortgages. We're going to wipe everything, but you'll use this digital currency." And they will basically get rid of the debt that they owe the feds. But of course, the feds will control the new digital currency. And then in a few years, they'll control money. They'll make cash illegal. They will come in and save everyone and relieve them of this terrible debt that got out of hand. And they will kill the dollar, and it'll come back with like a digital dollar. And that is how I think they're going to do it, because it's going to crash anyway. So they're going to use that crash engineered to totally grab control with digital currency. And you got to be out of that system. I mean, really.
They're going to renege on the debt. This is the one thing that the Russian guys have been saying. They're going, "Look, man, the U.S. is going to..."
They have to, but also, why not use it as a political thing of, "Hey, we rescued you. We're going to wipe all this debt clean as long as you use this new dollar." And people will take that deal all day long because they've lost everything. Of course they'll take that deal. So that's how they'll do it.
Get you to sign. I totally agree. Agree.
Hey, we'll wipe away your college loans. We'll wipe away your mortgage. All the debt's gone. Just take this currency, and then in a few years, everybody will be indebted again.
Well, all the money that they printed after, with the TARP and all this stuff after the crash in 2008, they could have paid off everybody's house.
Oh, yeah. You could have given, I think it was, easily. Just for what they budgeted.
Not about us, foreign banks. Yep.
I think, it's ridiculous. What they budget for just 1 year in the military, you could pay off almost everybody's houses, buy people houses.
Housing is going to go. Everything's going to take a dump. One of the things Don
dump for a bit. Is Donna still in real estate?
Yeah, no, she's playing. Well, she's spending most of the time out here working on the land.
What does she think's going to happen with the housing market this year?
Oh, it's going to go. Yeah, it's already started. Yeah. It's already started. Here where they're doing big giant developments in the East Valley, it's Blackstone, BlackRock, Blackheart, Black somebody that is building these developments for rent. They're not even selling them.
Yeah.
You know, it's getting to you'll own nothing and here's your happy shot. I mean, you know, this is what's happening.
Did you see that thing about that they're going to roll out 50-year mortgages?
That is just so stupid. You
So
buy a $500,000 house, and at 3%, you know what they were giving out, you know, here years ago, and you pay, I don't know, $300,000 in interest, which is enough. But you do this 30-year mortgage at 8% or whatever, you're paying, you know, $2 million in interest. I'm like, right, you know, it's not sustainable.
Well, I don't think anyone owns a house for 30 years anymore. They buy a house for 5 years and then move, and 5 years and move. So
not if they're locked in and it's not worth what they got to do a short sale. This is what happened, you know, from 08 to 11. You know, there was just people. And then when they get a short sale, the difference was like a gift they said they didn't have to pay. And all of a sudden they put that as income and you had to pay taxes on it. And I go, what the crap? It's so obvious what's going to happen. And I don't think there's enough concern, you know, but the concern is young men, oh my God, white men that feel that they are, this country's not for them anymore. It's done. It's over. You're take a back seat, boy.
When there's nothing left in society for men, the young men, they'll watch society burn and feel the warmth. Like the young men are the most critical factor. Like they're the ones that actually keep society running here. And I know they don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. You know, 90% of men are linemen, or 90% are, you know, work on the power grid, and 90% run your cell phones. Like men run this country, and when they feel like they are no longer able to win anyway, then the country's in real trouble. That's how wealth redistribution happens and the countries fall apart. Like, you know, that's when revolution starts, is when you push the young men too far. And, you know, we need to give the young men a reason not to go that route. And that's what I'm hoping to do, is like, hey, you can have your own little side business and ignore all this stuff, you know. And I'm hoping that enough of them go that route. But if you take enough away from these young men, they'll just watch the town burn, you know.
You know, I want to read this. This was a part of the show yesterday. I asked Grok about, you know, what is the thing about this Nick Fuentes thing? I was not.
I don't know who he is very well.
A guy, you know, but he's the third most popular podcast on the planet, or U.S. or something now.
Oh, really?
I mean, after Charlie Kirk went, it all went to Nick's the next guy. Why? Now, who is this guy? What the hell? So I asked Grok this question. I go, let's see, what, you know, find where I did the question. Does Nick Fuentes offer solutions, and what are they for young men to do? You know? And I'm like, is there a solution? What's the draw? That kind of thing. The previous paragraph, she was, you know, kind of given the draw and so on. But this really kind of summed it up, I think. Sure, he does push solutions, but they're pretty radical and echo chambery. For young men, it's all about building parallel structures. Ditch mainstream jobs for America First gigs, like starting small businesses or going into trades that keep you independent. Politically, he says vote third party or build a new right-wing party. Boycott woke brands, get hyper-local, run for school boards, organize meetups. Personally, hit the gym, arm up, read traditional literature like, you know, list some stuff, and network with groypers online to form tribes, which is his supporters, I guess. Basically, reject the system, fortify your own world, and wait for the collapse to remake it. Edgy motivation, but it fires them up. And I'm going, that sounds pretty, you know, damn.
Familiar.
And then before that, I asked, I go, what are the issues that are important that make Nick Fuentes so popular with young men? Because I had no clue. I don't know.
I don't know who he is.
He goes, man, Nick Fuentes really clicks with a lot of young guys because he's like this raw, unfiltered voice in a world that feels stacked against them. Top issues? First off, economic frustration. Can't buy a house. Jobs suck. Feels like the system's rigged to leave him behind. He taps into that anger, saying tear it down instead of playing nice. Second, cultural backlash, feminism, wokeness, and what he calls globo homo, pushing guys toward this soft, emasculated vibe. They're craving that tough, traditional manhood he sells. Third, identity stuff, demographic changes, immigration, and straight up white interest. He says, cut out loud. He says out loud what they're scared to whisper about extinction or replacement. Oh, and his edginess. Holocaust jokes, anti-Israel rants. That's catnip for dudes who see offensive as a badge of authenticity. It's nihilistic hope. Basically, charismatic dude validating their rage without the corporate polish. Kind of sad, but yeah, it resonates. And I'm going, okay, I think I understand. It's this rage that you had the young men feeling they're left out. And all of a sudden, you got this guy out there doinking the system, and boom, he shoots up and represents this young generation that you're talking about of young men. And I'm going, okay, we've seen this before. You know, it's side effect of the times. That was kind of the MAGA Trump thing, is the Lovolution. It was, you know, even Perot back in 92. I mean, you've seen this kind of stuff happen before. Well, now with the internet and the ability to reach a lot of people and vent your frustration, and as all this crap is happening, certainly in the inner cities and stuff, I can see there's I don't know how hot the Civil War is going to be, or the revolution, the revolt, the resetting. Well, they're going to have a reset. There's going to be the Great Reset. Well, I say the greater reset is this. You know, it's just people going, nah, I think I'll decline. But there will be consternation between they, them, those that can, you know, with their funded NGO of Soros money, of county attorneys, of this, that. And I think it's going to go down to the county level. I just had Stuart Rhodes on yesterday, and he's along this line too. He's not a Fuentes fan, but, you know, he's kind of a prima donna. But the Stuart is relaunching Oath Keepers, and he's trying to do it this time without a list. He's like, no, it's just going to be, you know, we're all of this mindset, and we're going to Washington. Here he's building up to do another rally, try and encourage Trump, and you can hear him outside the White House kind of thing, to do total transparency, release all the corruption, release all the Epstein stuff, release. And then what the hell happened to Kash Patel, Bongino, and Bondi? So this is, and a lot of it's starting to come out that his chief of staff, what's her name, whatever, it doesn't matter, you know, that she's the one blocking, you know, all this stuff. So it's all coming to a head, and it's going to manifest itself, and it's gone. It's going to be a food thing, which is going to be representative of economics. So you have to be more resilient, and that is the benefit of the Free State Project. I saw it during COVID. It blazed over them. Now, of course, there were activists, and they went after even state legislators that were not vaccinating their kids. And, oh, my God, he gave them ivermectin, so they got to take the kids away kind of crap. Or they do. I mean, there has been a lot of push, but I think they were surprised at the pushback from the Free State Project. And then they're going, damn, how are we going to deal with this? I don't know. What do you think? You know, is New Hampshire going to be, you know, a giant sucking sound of all freedom-oriented people moving to New Hampshire? Because that was one thing with I was talking to Carla Garrick, you know, she was, you know, heading up Free State Project for a long time, and I go, you know, you're so worried about people coming and signing up and recruiting. I go, all you got to do is just keep doing what you're doing. That 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people go sign up and do kind of is going to not happen all at once, but it will happen overnight. It's all of a sudden, damn, here it comes. Well, that's just starting. And I'm telling you, the times will, as long as you create a good example, here they come, and they'll put up with the snow. You know, that's just saying. So that's, you know, my view. So
I think it's going to be some event like that where someone gets in power, maybe it'll swing back to some awful president, and people will flock. Also, I still believe in the free town projects here. I'm hoping they pick up steam, where some activists have all tried to move to a little town and just make an example of, hey, this is what it could be like if we get enough people. I think there needs to be like one triggering example to hold up and say, this is what we've done, and it's coming. They're slowly picking pieces off the edges of everything and unwinding the sweater. It's happening. It's death by a thousand paper cuts kind of thing, but eventually it's going to be one catalyst thing, and it might be the dollar collapse. It might be some catastrophic things happen. I don't know, but something. We've already got the community here, and it's being built, and people just aren't uncomfortable enough to leave where they're at. So something needs to make them uncomfortable enough to leave.
Well, that's one thing that the Free State Project has done to new movers. You contact the guys, and you're, here I come, and there's a welcome wagon. I mean, literally a wagon. They start helping you move your stuff, help you get a place to live, put you into the community. They show up and unload your trailer. I mean, it's a thing. Explain that.
Come and move me in under 30 minutes. It was crazy. Like, you drive all the way across country with a truck full of stuff, and you're exhausted, and you get there, and all of a sudden everybody does everything for you, and you're like, what? Not my family wouldn't even do this. My friends wouldn't do this. Strangers from the Free State will do this. So I think it's that important that, we're grateful to have the right kind of people here. And, if this sounds...
Which are what?
I think it's liberty-oriented people that, me particularly, I'm trying to get people that will be more proactive in a small community. Like, I want a good community. I feel like there's still going to be bad things coming, and I feel like I want a community of like-minded people I can trust. Now, that's not the Free State's position, but that is Free Staters, a roundabout way. I'm trying to get the right kind of liberty-oriented people that will leave you alone and let me live my life the way I want to live, and I'll let you live the way you want to live. I'm tired. I'm just tired of being fleeced and being pressured into doing stuff that I don't agree with ethically at the point of a gun because the government says I have to. I'm done.
Before we go, I want to get kind of, this vibe from you. Whenever I go to New Hampshire, there's a feeling of pressure release. The stress kind of, just falls off. You're around like-minded people. They understand the importance of, these kinds of issues, economics, Austrian economics, freedom is the answer, what's the question, liberty-minded, oriented kind of people. And living there, though, I just want to get your sense of every other place that you've lived, and you've been, a chiropractor, with offices, in Georgia and around, and you get there, the feeling you wake up in the morning and just, the oppressiveness of what you have to do and forms you got to fill out and, permission slips you need. What is your mental health like since being there?
So relaxing. It's so relaxing compared. I mean, yes, this New Hampshire's not perfect yet, but it's going the right direction. And there's a lot less crud you have to eat here to do stuff. And a lot of times it's just not big enough that you can still do what you want and nobody's going to care. I really enjoy that aspect, and it feels really weird to even drive across the state line because I have to go to South Carolina to see my mom, and I go through New York, and I don't even want to stop at a gas station. I'm like,
right.
We got. I remember when COVID was going on, we stopped in New York, and they were threatening to call the cops on us because we wouldn't wear masks to pump gas outside. New York sucks. What's interesting though, Ernie, is, I don't know if you've seen this. There's a legislator in Virginia that is trying to get other counties to secede and join them, and it's actually making national news. And we kind of have the same thing starting up here. And Eric Brakey, the guy I keep saying, the Free State Project, he keeps putting this out there on X, and I think it's starting to gain a little traction. A lot of the Maine is split up, where Maine is very red and libertarian up north. It's hard to live in the woods, and it's hard to have a life out there and not have some sort of self-sufficiency. but the coastline of Maine is all a bunch of Massachusetts people. So they're like, a super Democrat. And he is actively trying to get a couple counties to move over to New Hampshire that are more New Hampshire oriented. And I think if one state pulls this off, if Virginia starts this and it works, I think you're going to start seeing this all over that another state like we would come in and be like, yeah, let's invite a couple of the right counties from Maine to come over, and let's invite, because I say the right, but here's what's weird in New Hampshire. There's a strong libertarian presence, but it was very ineffective to run as a libertarian. Very few people got elected. Instead, the Republican Party was kind of in shambles and not very strong, and the libertarians threw their back into the Republican Party. And so a lot of the Republicans are just straight up libertarians running because it's so much easier to run in this established party with funding and rules and all the BS if you just use the Republican label. At some time, there was a time where they were encouraging everybody to run for every party. So some of the Democrats were libertarians, but the Democratic Party kind of freaks out about that and tries to get them unelected as fast as possible when they get in. The Republicans welcomed them. It's like, yeah, you're strengthening, they agree with about 80%. So a lot of times I go back and forth saying Republicans here, but New Hampshire Republicans are kind of libertarians. I mean, for the most part. So
getting that way.
It's getting, I can't say for the whole group, but I'm saying it's way more libertarian than anywhere else. But it's just easier to take over the Republican Party than to run as libertarians. It's just set up. The system's just set up for those two parties.
Yeah, no, I understand. I wanted to, thank you for coming on because it's good just to see you.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to wrap for 3 hours. This is cool.
Yeah, it's been 3 hours. 2 hours and 20 minutes. Well, yeah, we're getting up there. It's just, if I'm going to talk, with a friend and about this stuff, might as well record it, make a show out of it.
Yeah, I missed you. What the hell? I'm bummed you didn't come to the last couple Pork Fest. We'd love to hang out. So,
I really enjoy it. I'm always treated well. And we, an ad, and we like going and visiting different things and things or people are doing. Brian's got his thing down near Weir, and Jay's Brian's doing whatever. And of course, Derek is building a big, giant warehouse shop on one of his pieces of property, and it is a thing. This is like,
he was talking about
something stupid, like 40 by 80 by, it's and he just, it's going to snow. I'm like, it's going to snow, So he's almost done doing the trusses, the rafters. But I love people like this, and he's such a super computer geek and whatever. But I remember one time we were working on the bus, building the studio in the bus and everything. And I was taking pictures of him, doing Ethernet cords, doing it kind of when he goes, oh, you don't want to do that. My hands are all greasy. I go, are you kidding me? That's the Michelangelo part of this. Here's I got to work on my, my bulldozer and fix my skid steer and got my bucket truck if I'm kind of whatever. And then I come in and do computer stuff and the greasy fingers. That's awesome.
That's
this is the kind of people that we have in the community. They're the ones that are self-sufficient.
Yeah, he's a great example of a very nice guy, and his wife's wonderful. Just a nice guy that's super helpful, that didn't need to help me at all, and he just reached out when I was in a bad spot. I think I had an RV that blew up, and he just helped me. Like, I know this sounds strange, but there's just not communities around that do that stuff anymore. It's hard to get. You move to a neighborhood where you don't know anyone, and your neighbors aren't going to help you, but in the Free State Project, your Pork Fest, something breaks down, you got 10 guys going, yeah, I'll help you. So it's just a different vibe, man, and we got to bring it back.
Especially if you got skills. One of my son-in-laws, he works for Lucid, here, car thing. He's a whippy there, but he's trained as a mechanic. And what he did, he pimped out his garage. He moved into a new home. He and my daughter and their 2 sons, and it's the epoxy disco floor. It really looks cool, and has he has a car lift inside. It's a 4-car garage. It's too wide, but it's like too deep, And in his neighborhood, people see that, and whoa, man, you know what? So he starts doing them a solid. One guy's an electrician, helped him, wire his thing. So he works on his vehicles and whatever. And whenever he needs extra money, he just puts an ad on Facebook. It's called George Amadeus or George Amor Sanchez. So it's gas automotive, and so he just puts up an ad, and he's busy for weeks of scheduled whatever. If he wants to do that and make money, and he has it totally tooled out. I need to work on any cars. Hey, can I borrow your garage and tools? Here I come. And by offering that to his upscale, suburban, gated community, he's the guy. Well, there's a bunch of guys like that. They created their own community, and hell, they're not even finished building houses there yet. It's just if you have skills and you make yourself available to any community, you become an add to your community, and they will barter and trade with you. It happens everywhere, all the time. And if we make it a conscious effort to put out and how I do it is with my tractor. I go, hey, I see what you're doing. I got a tractor. You'd see them at, the water thing or at the intersection, and what's up? You wave and and there was a flood out here, and everybody's, stuck at where the river crossing was, and we're just yakking it and what we're doing out here. And I go, yeah, I'll come help you. I'll fix your road after the storm. I'll, dig your septic and whatever. All of a sudden, I'm learning a whole bunch of stuff from them and access availability to different auctions and well, guess what? Who's going to get their Xano wallet, So these guys, we have probably like 4 neighbors, such as they are. I mean, it's miles away, but that we start to integrate being an ad. Well, they want to be, helpful too. That's why they're out here, is to be able to, their life became so much easier. They got their road thing, and so much easier to get their, shoveling wheelbarrows. They ain't going to do it when I got a tractor kind of thing. So this is my currency. I mean, I know how to do, a bunch of different stuff, and everybody's doing what we're doing, but I got a tractor. I'm telling you, man, that's like gold.
Telling the kids to get into something like obviously trade, but my predictions, again, if you come to New Hampshire, if you will start your own school, that would make, that's basically a trade that's going to be a windfall of opportunity, and it's good to move things forward. But also just these skills, like there's almost no plumbers left. There's almost no electricians because they make it so regulated and hard to do now. It's like a 4-year program to become a plumber now. So they're trying to reduce that in the government and roll that stuff back. Those kind of things, people are going to be pissed when they can't get a plumber because there's only 2 guys left and they're 70 years old, Yeah,
it's like Pat. He's doing general contracting, but he's got to hire a licensed plumber,
and that's
electrician.
The
new he can put up wood.
Anyone I talk to, Jen, because I was a doctor and stuff, and people would occasionally be like, "You think I should go into healthcare?" And I'm like, "Oh hell no! It's so different than what it is now. Don't go into healthcare. Go do a trade." And that's all I push now. Is like, learn how to fix a car, learn how to fix these things. Nothing's AI proof, but they will be the closest thing you can get to AI proof.
Well, our friend Jay is he's really like a
out there if you do the right stuff.
He's really trying to focus on food and farming and all that, but he's a diesel guy. I mean, he knows how to work on cars and engines and fixing heavy equipment, and he does not have enough hours in the day. I mean,
right.
It is just... If
you were a young man, you could go to someone like Jay and be like, I will work for a discounted rate internship, teach me. And Jay...
He's done that.
Teach you.
He's done that with many people. They go there, learn something, then they're off doing whatever.
We need mechanics, man. We need all those things. These are the things that are... When it really makes me irritated because Gen Z will be like, well, there's nothing left in this economy. There's no jobs in this. Like, there's huge opportunities out there for willing to do trade stuff. Like, you can make so much money. And so there is opportunity. You just don't want to hear it because, white collars.
It's work.
Yeah, it's easy to sit in front of a computer, But
I want to be an influencer. Yeah, that's it.
But that's hard now. I mean, coming from me, who I was an influencer and got paid on YouTube for a long time, overnight, you say one wrong thing and your entire empire is gone. So, you talk about a vaccine 6 years ago and you lose all your money. So
well, that's why we focused on the
be an
decentralized
influencer.
storage of data. That was a big thing for me.
Ernie, you're not writing me a paycheck. Like YouTube paid me. Where if you could figure out a good way to monetize that, then yeah, I would love that. But and I guess
that's a criticism that we get a lot. Ernie, you should monetize everything. You should copyright it.
No, but I mean, maybe we could do the crypto you're talking about, monetize.
Yeah, no, we're working on that. But they go, you should have copyrighted the Levolution logo. You should, limit this. You should say the right things. You should, do better production values of doing the whatever and be the kind of guy and say the right things and the advertising of what the banner ads that I have on Freedom's Phoenix. Most of them I don't charge for. It's just people I like and projects that I support and people that have supported me and put it up. I'll promote that for a while. Like I've done your books. I just, I'm a big favorite. And I stopped that because you wouldn't write another one about, the sequel.
People don't read anymore. Like nobody buys books. It's a dead art. I don't know what to do about that. I will say
AI it.
That's what I was going to say. I would be much more comfortable making a movie.
You can load up your Blood Nation and tell it to write a sequel.
That's what I'm hoping. Well, actually, I got a sequel halfway done, but the problem is I wrote this book so long ago that I was predicting like what was going to happen, and now the book's really dated, so I'd have to like update both books to make it more about the future. Like it's people are like, yeah, of course, this is what happens. Donna sent me something. Your wife wants to dispute my claim about New York that is fully full of socialists. This is true. New York, that's unfair. I should say New York City. Driving through the north of New York is not that bad.
Why does she say that? Because her brother lives there. That's why.
Oh, is that what it is? No,
yeah,
actually,
but he's an economist at Moody's. New York.
He's both. If New Hampshire would be like, hey, you could join us over here, northern New York would move. They don't want to be part of New York City at all. They get paid. They have to pay stupid taxes for that.
Well, his property taxes on his home. I found out one year is $2,600 a month.
Oh,
and I went.
And it's all going to like New York City. Both
Yeah. Whatever. But his kids are starting to.
And northern New York's beautiful, and I think they would go their own way in a second if they could.
I think they are. This is as their kids start to age out.
Very unfair to them that they have to flip the bill for the state.
The main thing is when we would travel and doing the Love Bus, we couldn't get across New York fast enough.
No,
and it was
like I said, we almost got arrested for getting gas. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, we fuel up before, after, whatever. New York was just Massachusetts. We really tried to avoid. A lot of that, and we go to Connecticut to visit with Richard Grove, and to get there you have to go through freaking everything, and it is a feeling. You're right. When you stop someplace, it was just oppressive. Yeah, and Donna was great during the Love Bus Liberty tour. She refused to wear a mask. Ma'am, but you have a mask. She goes, yes, and she just keep walking. I'm not putting it on, but.
So I never put it on once, and I remember having to go in and pay.
I did have to put it on. One time, out of respect, for a mother-in-law, because she was at a home that they were like, oh, I'm not going to cause a scene here, and I'll wear it to the elevator. And then the other one was I had to go into Verizon for something. And, man, they were adamant. You cannot come. You can go away. The line's outside. You're not, got wear a mask. And I go, one time I go to one of the guys, and I said, tell me you guys take all your masks off or something sometime, in the back room or whatever. And when nobody's in here, are you wearing this all day? And he goes like this. He goes, camera. They're watching them, and I'm like, holy crap. See, because they were a federally licensed kind of thing.
I mean, I know it's inconvenient and horrible, but I just can't do it. The hypocrisy is too strong.
Yeah,
but I remember I had to go in to pay taxes, so I couldn't get out of this. I had to go register a car or something, and they wouldn't take it by mail. And I went into the town office, and they had this big sign that's like, you have to wear a mask. I walked in, and they were like freaking out that I wasn't wearing a mask. They're like, you have to wear a mask. And I was like, I just kept doing really polite. I was like, no, thank you. Well, here's my money. And they were like, no, you got to wear a mask. And I'm like, just take my money. And they didn't know what to do when I was just like, no, thank you. And then I just kept going, and they just went along with it and paid the bill. So like, if that ever happens again, just kill them with kindness. No, thank you. No, you have to. No, thanks.
Well, then you went through the phase of everybody wearing Darth Vader helmets or some crap like that.
Yeah, that was funny too. I saw a kid wearing a full plague mask, like the 1700 plague masks.
Right. I have. Matter of fact, one of my friends had one of those. He was a mailman.
I think it's a dangerous. And now they're backpedaling because they want to do facial ID on everybody, and they're like, "No, you can't wear a mask in here." Like they want. If I were up to no good, I would love it, man. Everybody could wear a mask, and you put some reflective.
Now you're starting to see signs during the Halloween season. Don't come in with a mask. They didn't want you to have masks.
I saw some at the gun shop where they were like, we shoot people with masks, take it off.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, another thing before you go, talk about Second Amendment advocacy. We have
New Hampshire's got like the best gun laws, I think, in the country at this point. They just keep making them better and better, as far as I know. Like, it's constitutional carry here. They can, I don't know I don't have any negative things to say about the gun law here. Like, was there a lot of training, a lot of schools, a lot of meetups, a lot of... I guess I'm not really into the Second Amendment stuff as much as I probably should be. I carry a pistol once in a blue moon, but I'm not that guy. But there are shoot-ups pretty much. I think the Appleseed program still comes here. I think I see stuff for that. Yeah, I saw on your calendar an Appleseed thing. I think they're still actively shooting. So there is definitely a strong... Jay used to do gun church at his place. There it is, Project Appleseed. Yeah, so they're still coming. 25-meter rifle, marksmanship. Appleseed is kind of it's like a history lesson of the shot heard around the world, Lexington, Concord, and why, and why you need to be a rifleman, and kind of. I've never actually gone through it, but I kind of still want to. I need to do it. Yeah, we did a whole thing with the Freedom's Phoenix readers. We had a dozen couples that went because women were free and kids were free at the time. Oh, I forgot about that. They were doing women free back in the day. I totally forgot about that. They're probably charging now, but it was really interesting. And that's how I met Bill Bupert. He had known about us from whatever Zero Gov. I haven't seen Bill in so many years. I miss Bill. He was a good guy. I don't know what happened to him. He just disappeared. Well, he wound up in Tucson working for Hughes Missile Systems or whatever it became. And, he retired doing that. So his wife was on his ass, man. You can't go on Ernie's show anymore. You'll lose your job, Oh, is that what happened? Well, if he's secretly listening, we miss you, Bill. You were a good guy. I love this stuff. He has his own podcast now. Who surprised me? He's a militia guy. He's really, man, you need to get in shape and arm up. Here we go. And I think there's room for that. There needs to be that, but it's just not my vibe. I'll only do that when I have to do that kind of thing. I'll tell you who I'm really impressed with, that I'm shockingly impressed with, is Gary Franchi. Like, all of a sudden, I didn't really pay much attention to Gary's show for a year or two. And then I hit on YouTube and I'm like, holy cow, he's got like 3 million subscribers or something. And he's at the White House. And Gary was the nicest guy. He went real MAGA. And, he decided he went full into it, right? Yeah. Like I was, Trump Report. And, when Dr. Frank goes, well, I want to do the Trump Report, I go, hell yeah. We've been doing it 10 years. Yeah. And every week. I thought it was a joke when you first did it. I was like, Trump? What are you doing that for? And then, Well, because I go to him and I say, you're still voting a bunch of times, And so it's a fun, but now it's like show. Relevant, Well, the thing is that at the time, that would definitely get you, do we ban them? We not? It kind they didn't know how to take it. But Gary Franchi went all in. They Trump. So guess what? Well, his metrics shoot up. He's in the White House. Yeah. He's whatever. Yeah, I just saw him. Does he still talk? Yeah, Ron Paul's birthday. And he came on and we did a show here recently. Yeah, Gary's a good friend. I really personally. I like Gary, and I'm actually, even though he's all MAGA or whatever. I'm really proud of how far he's gone with it. I remember when he was getting 100 views on his stuff, and now he's getting this, and he's still that. I think he's still that guy underneath, you know.
Yeah, no, he was at Rob Hall's birthday party.
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
he's just where he is because he's playing that, and he's just truly a nice guy. I'm really proud of Gary. I wish I could. If you ever talk to him again, tell him I said hey, because he's too big of a star to talk to me now.
You know, it's a.
I don't think he'd ever let us on his show now.
He would. You know, that's what they. You know, that reminds me. I tell Donna to get Gary on again because now all the stuff that's going on in the White House.
I love Gary.
All right, Gary, what's up, man? Tell me what's up. You know, he tell me what's up. So he might be careful, but yeah, we'll see. Everybody gets in trouble coming on this show. All the crypto guys, all the activist guys. I know. That's why I don't come on but every few years. That's it. But, you know, the reason is because we just had this conversation. I ask the right questions. You know, I mean, I get them to reveal, and they start you know, saying stuff they normally wouldn't say on other shows, you know, and then they get in trouble. But it's been my pleasure to know you and the crowd up there, and I miss the Free State and a lot of the people there. I get along with everybody, you know, I don't care, you know, there's no central plan for freedom, but it's I do emphasize, you know, the general public opinion thing. And, you know, sometimes you create a lot of, that was Ian's activism. He would commit, you know, controversy creates commitment kind of thing was what he was going for. It's just, we're going to make them say it and really push the edge of the envelope and so on. They didn't like that.
He would take it to the extreme to show the violence behind the system. Like if you're going to arrest and beat someone for a couch in the yard, then, you know, that just shows the violence of the system. And I think that's important activism. It still needs to happen because when you vote, you're voting violence against your neighbor most of the time. Now, I do believe there's voting in self-defense. Like I said, voting to remove laws or limiting things.
Yeah, if you could trust a freaking system, I'm not giving credence to this bullshit.
I don't think so either because for, 40 years I've never seen any voting work, but it's starting to work here and it's completely different in New Hampshire because I don't see it anywhere else, but that wasn't by accident. They've been actively working on it for 20 years. So
the counting laws, you have early voting, paper ballots or not? I mean, how's that working?
They still have paper ballots. You have to have an ID. So that really slowed down the corruption. They're trying to get rid of out-of-state votes, the students and stuff. And I think it's going to change. You're going to probably see New Hampshire really shift in the next couple of years. And there's really good stuff that's happening in the legislation. So I'm proud of them. Now, unfortunately, it's not perfect. There's still a bunch of communism here. That's just every state. Like, what state doesn't have
How
that?
Infiltrated do you think the Free State? I mean, because they always had, agent provocateurs. They always got troll spots, and then they get paid informants. They've done. A lot of times it's Free Staters that refuse to do it, so they throw the book at them. There's principled people. They just think, we threaten you with jail and give you $6,000 a month. You be our bitch. And a lot of the Free State go, nah, and then they out them that they tried to do it. So, and then they put them in jail, so that kind of stuff happens. How infiltrated do you think you are now?
I think the political stuff, not as much, but the activism stuff, like the stuff, like you said, they were hunting for Ian at Free Talk Live. I remember Rich Paul was supposed to take a deal. They're like, if you just roll on Ian, you won't have to go to jail. And he didn't roll. He went to jail because he had principle. So that was around. That definitely happens. They're trying to do it. As far as infiltration, I don't know. Like, there's always probably a Fed at Pork Fest. There's always a cop around, but they don't really cause a lot of problems with, like,
you play spot the Fed, and then that guy.
I'd say only if you're like doing the most extreme things. I think they're worried about like people doing violent militias and stuff like that. But if you're just advocating on, jury nullification and trying to use the legal system, I don't think they care as much. Until you start actually winning, then probably. But
and then it's the money thing. This barter money, they don't like that.
They have left that alone pretty much because I think it's too hard to track. There's just too many people up here doing it. It's kind of like, how I want to throw this back to the immigrant communities, like the Korean communities and Mexican communities. They all have their own infrastructure and economies, and the government doesn't do anything about that. Like, I used to work in a Mexican community, and they had their own everything that was off the books, and nobody was registered. They were just like this whole counterculture that ran, and the government didn't know what to do about it and just left it alone. So, like, I think it's the same thing. Once there's too many people,
they got a plan.
They can't
got a
really do
plan.
much. They might hold out the big players, but it's not
Decentralization.
Yeah, good luck trying to track me for trading cinnamon rolls for a chainsaw. So like, what are you gonna do? I bought ammo with cinnamon rolls.
Tarrin, thanks for coming on.
All right, man.
Thanks for spending time with me, man. It's been awesome catching up with you. Say hey to everybody.
Tell Donna I said hey. Love your family. Bye, guys.
Bye. Peace, brother.
Bye. How do I get